Hello everyone and welcome to this YouTube video of me leeching off another YouTuber. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey.
Yeah, this is pretty much my only tactic of gaining views at the minute. And, I don't know, I thought it would be a very interesting video to do this, a modern series ranked video, which is, of course, completely original. And it's with someone who absolutely adores New Who, isn't that true?
Oh, I mean, it's so great. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the bit where they defeat the Cyberman by the power of love. You know, that just shows how far Doctor Who's come, really.
It was very genius, in my opinion. But, no, seriously, if you would just sort of give a brief summary to those who haven't actually watched your channel, what is just a quick brief of your thoughts on New Who as a whole, if that's even possible?
Brief thoughts on New Who as a whole. I mean, that's difficult to kind of sum up very quickly, but I'll say, so I don't like a lot of the direction New Who's taken with the show. I did like Series 1, even if I wasn't keen on some elements of it. The rest of it, I'm very, very mixed on. And I think the key issues I have is the Doctor's been built up as too much of, too important, too much of a hero. It's like, you know, yeah, he's always heroic, but they almost worship him, and he's almost godlike in New Who. And I don't know, it kind of takes away from the magic of it just being a rogue traveller. And then a lot of the companions I'm not a fan of. I don't know, they have a tendency to be made like the most important people ever without actually being likeable characters, although there are a couple of good companions, to be fair. And then I think the main issue I have is the format. There hasn't really been a story arc I thought was really good. They're all just like mystery boxes. And they're just not very interesting. And because of the story arc, they just have individual 45-minute, 50-minute episodes, and they're not long enough to fully develop side characters, plots, and the world that it's set in. So you end up with, like, a plot that isn't very well developed, side characters that aren't developed, and at the same time just having, like, this kind of crap story arc. So, I don't know, I just can't get as much out of New Who because of that reason. And I feel that if they changed to a longer episodes, that would go a long way in making it better.
Yeah, so we're definitely off to a positive start.
Yeah.
What I would say is, though, about the whole god worship thing is that did sort of start in the JNT era a little bit, because he obviously liked a lot of the fan wank stuff and all that, and I think it's sort of the first sight I got of that was in the Five Doctors, where at the end of the story they make the Doctor President of Gallifrey, which, I mean, President-elect, but it made no sense, and it kind of made the world building feel really cheap. Like, okay, so they don't have any sort of election, they just kind of choose this guy because anniversary special. And then obviously it's done a bit better in the Cartmel era, where it's trying to build a lot more mystery, but I would say that deifying of the Doctor did definitely start towards the 80s, but it's definitely gotten worse now.
I think that it was a stupid moment in the Five Doctors, but I don't feel like that was a symptom of that trend.
No,
myself.
Maybe not, but
I can agree with you on the Cartman Master Plan, and I'm personally not a fan of what the direction that was heading. I like, wanting to inject some mystery back in the Doctor, good idea, but you don't need to make the most important person ever to do that. But either way, it was at its worst for me personally in Last of the Time Lords, where people literally prayed to the Doctor and he got magic powers and was able to defeat the Master and was in like a Christ-like pose while he did it.
Yeah, that definitely goes too far in a few places. So we'll get on with the ranking then. So my thoughts just generally are that I'm more generous to New Who than you are, clearly. I have my problems with it, but I still have a lot of nostalgia for it. There's still a lot of things I do enjoy about it, so it's going to be interesting to see how both of our lists contrast, I guess. And do you want to go first, or would you like me to start this off?
I don't mind.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I will go first, just to start this off. I'm going to go at 13th place, Series 11.
Wait, 13th? There's only 12 series, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're including the 2009 specials, remember?
Oh, okay, well, I need to find a place to put them in.
I did say that before we started recording this.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed the memo.
It's cool, don't worry about it. But whilst you find a place to add that in, Series 11, I can't say it's objectively the worst series in terms of just how it's made and the writing, but it's the most boring series in my opinion, and that's what I have to judge it on. I have to think, if I was on alone on an island with somehow a working Blu-ray player, what is the series I would not want to have the most? And it's just Series 11. Now, not everything about it's bad. You know, there's good stuff like Rosa, Demons of the Punjab. It takes you away. But I think the main problem that the series has is that there's hardly any conflict, and it kind of feels like Chibnall was trying to go for a more 80s or 60s vibe with the three companions. But the reason it just didn't work was because we didn't have nearly as many dynamics as we used to have. Let's say we go back to the Hartnell era and we look at Susan, Ian and Barbara. You know, you've got Ian and Barbara who kind of are close to each other, both school teachers. There's a bit of hint of romantic interest there. You've got Susan and the Doctor, and he's like obviously a grandfather figure because he is a grandfather and he's strict on her, and she learns to overcome her fears. But then we've also got stuff like Ian, who isn't always happy with the Doctor and some of the decisions he makes, and there's always moral arguments, and there was just a lot of dynamics like that back in the classic series, especially when there were a lot of companions. And the only real dynamic that we actually got in Series 11 was between Ryan and Graham, about Ryan accepting Graham as his grandfather, and that's all fine, but that was really all we were given. I didn't know, what is the 13th Doctor's relation to Ryan? What is the 13th Doctor's relationship with Graham? What is it with Yaz? How do these people feel about each other, apart from just saying, oh, they're my fam, and that's the end of that. Yeah. So that's the main problem I personally find.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just add to that, and I think the reason why it struggles to do that, I mean, there's probably more than just one, but this is one of the main reasons, is the fact that the episodes are so short. It's like they're trying to rush through a whole plot, like of building up a whole plot and getting it to its conclusion, and building up a whole set of side characters, and, you know, trying to give them character, and trying to build up a whole new world that we haven't been to before. How do you do that, and also successfully have, like, dynamics between the four main cast, you know, be developed succinctly? It's just, it can't be done. It's not enough time in the episodes to do it. Most of them feel rushed.
But now that you mention that, it kind of makes sense as to why the Mind Robber is so good, because it doesn't need to give the side characters like three-dimensional personalities, because they're literally meant to be fake.
Yeah.
That was completely off topic, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that kind of came out though. It wasn't the response I was expecting.
No, that came to me.
Yeah, if you look at the Hartnell era, the reason why they were able to kind of build up those dynamics so successfully, it wasn't just because of good writing, it's because that the format had enough time for them to be able to do that. And even then, it only really worked because one of them went on holiday every other episode, you know, and was out of it for a bit.
That is
it's just not possible. I look at the 80s with the Three Companions in Peter Davison's era. Yeah, writing was part of the problem, but it was also the format, because at that point, stories had gotten a lot shorter, and they were still double the length of a New Who episode. And still, they really, really struggle to give these characters any kind of personality and give them proper dynamics with each other and the Doctor.
I mean, it's weird, though, because even Stephen Moffat managed to do this in Series 10, where he had quite a few dynamics going on with the Doctor Nardole, the Doctor Bill Nardole. I mean, I'm not saying it was necessarily perfect or it's to your liking, but at least there was something there to keep me attached to these characters, rather than they're just going on random adventures and I don't know how any of them feel about each other. Like, we know that the Doctor, you know, gets annoyed with Nardole but keeps him around because he's lonely. We understand that, you know, Bill kind of thinks Nardole's a bit weird and they have a bit of banter like that. It's not great stuff by any means, but it's just something that Series 11 just has none of.
Well, I think, again, I'm going to point towards the format, because Moffat managed to dodge and weave around the format to do that. So in the sense that Nardole had already been introduced, and he wasn't in every Series 10 episode, he was only in a few, and then so there was plenty of time for the Doctor and Bill to build their own relationships, time for the Doctor and Nardole to build their own relationships. So, like, it's the fact that it wasn't just all at once, and then just all together for the entire thing with no room to breathe. That there was a chance to kind of get everybody developed properly there, in the way that just didn't happen in Series 11.
Well, the thing is, New Who doesn't really take advantage of the new formula in terms of... It's always had the thing with the companions nowadays where we can drop them off home and then we'll come visit them later, which I've not necessarily been a fan of. But when you have three companions and you also have in the writing that they go home quite a lot. Why can't you have individual episodes that only maybe have one or two companions on for this one ride? Like, have you ever seen Star Wars: The Clone Wars?
When I was quite young, so I don't really remember it.
Okay, well, I'm a really big fan of it, and in every episode, we obviously focus on different characters, but the main three were Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka, but not every episode necessarily contained them three. We'd sometimes have them have separate adventures, pairing two up that we didn't expect, just a little bit of variety like that, and I think with the time span that they have, and the fact that they've got so many characters they need to develop, it would actually be quite useful if you've got so many companions to just leave some of them out and say, oh yeah, well, they're just not with us on this adventure, because I personally wouldn't mind that if it meant we develop these individual characters more.
It'd be like an RPG where you like come back and get one to join your party and you have to leave the other there.
I'm not saying like all the time. Like you can have like 3 episodes where they're all together, but maybe like the next episode is specifically focused on this companion and the other companions doing something. Okay, you can say it's lazy, but it would just...
It would at least be a way around it.
Yeah, like, I knew who definitely, at least Chibnall hasn't taken advantage of that since we have 3 companions. I don't think they all need to be in every single episode. Okay, so, obviously my pick was Series 11. What is your 13th pick?
Well, it's got to be Series 7, hasn't it?
Oh, okay, that's... I was somewhat expecting that, but I wasn't entirely sure. Why don't you explain?
Well, I mean, the thing for me is that I want to be able to, at the very least, have taken away from the Doctor Who series an episode that I want to come back to again and again. And most New Who series do that. Or at least have one that stands out as quite good. None of Series 7 stands out to me. It's all very, very poor. I mean, there's some okay episodes in there, like A Town Called Mercy, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. They're not great, but they're also not awful episodes either. They're just kind of there. But there is also a lot of pretty poor episodes as well, specifically something like Asylum of the Daleks, where it's just like, oh. And I think one of the big what the symptom this series suffers from is it's all one-parters, and it tries to go for this whole it's like a movie type thing, and the whole reason that New Who's format is single episodes is because now they have an overriding arc to replace self-contained stories. So when you don't have a proper overriding arc, in that sense, the format loses its justification. And I suppose you could argue, the Impossible Girl was an arc, but I'd say that was more of like a character thing than anything, And I felt that none of the episodes really went anywhere or did anything, and there was a lot of poor writing. It felt rushed. And it was rushed because Chibnall was trying to write a series of Sherlock, a film.
Have you just
Tintin.
said Chibnall?
Oh, it's not Chibnall, Moffat. So Moffat was trying to write Sherlock, a film called Tintin, and Doctor Who all in the same year, and it's just too much work for one man. And it shows because the quality was very, very low.
I was going to comment on the stuff you just said, but now I'm thinking what Sherlock would be like if Chris Chibnall made it. I mean...
Oh, that would be quite a sight. I mean, it'd just be boring.
He'd just be like, Watson, I am a detective, I am smart, let's go and solve mystery. And Watson's just like, yes, Mr. Holmes, you are cool. And then they just walk really straight and don't like... I don't know, okay, like, and then they literally start saying left foot, right foot, left foot, and just...
And then, like, they get to a street corner, it's like, oh, Watson, my shoelace is untied. And then it focuses in excruciating detail of him tying up his shoelaces.
And it's just got the really dramatic music in the background.
Yeah. There, my shoelaces are now tied.
No, Sherlock, Mycroft is actually your great-grandfather. Yep, why not? Why not?
No, that's more of a Moffat twist, that.
Yeah, I suppose that's kind of true. So, Series 7, you know very well that I am kind of a Smith fanboy.
Yeah, but I feel that I don't like Smith as a whole, but I can kind of see the appeal in the earlier series, whereas he's very much just a caricature of himself by Series 7.
Yeah,
with not much depth.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is like, as much as a fanboy as I am, even I have to admit that I wasn't the biggest fan of his character. Like, I still enjoy his performance because he's daddy, but I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's like Moffat just really didn't know what he wanted to do with this character, and it's weird to me that in his planned Series 8 that he was going to do with Matt Smith before he announced he was leaving, they were going to do like Time of the Doctor over either a series or a half series, which would have obviously been, well, probably better than Time of the Doctor, because that's just...
Definitely better than Time of the Doctor. Yeah. That was an episode which just felt like... I mean, I watched it with my friend a few weeks ago in preparation for the Top 20 Worst Episodes live stream I did.
Yeah.
And I came to the conclusion of describing it as vacuous grandiloquence. Nothing really went on. It didn't really have much to say, but yet the way it was like written and shot, it seemed as though it thought it was some kind of timeless piece of art, and it was just crap.
Yeah, it's just Moffat like stroking his ego once again. Like, my Doctor is the most important ever.
Yeah.
Like, he did the same with Clara. Like, he had Clara literally do everything. Just, oh yes, I told the Doctor that, this TARDIS was better or something. Like, it's literally implied that the reason the TARDIS is faulty in Hartnell and Troughton's era is because Clara suggested that TARDIS. That's kind of weird.
Do you know what I hate about that? Whenever you bring that up to some people who are very defensive of the Moffat, they would say, "Oh no, that's not right. You're just undoing the work of the Great Intelligence." It's like, no, it's literally shot. Her saying that. How can you say that didn't happen?
Yeah, it's literally saying that without Clara, he would have took a different TARDIS. It's like, Jesus. And then, I don't know, maybe the Hartnell era would have been different if he was able to steer his ship. It would just be like, oh, I shall drop you to young school teacher's home now. And then he just does it and leaves.
Yeah, I mean, and if he had done that, actually, the Doctor would never have became the Doctor. Yeah, he only became the Doctor we know because of his relationship with Ian and Barbara. They wouldn't have gained if he just was able to take them back.
Yeah, exactly. So it's literally Clara made the Doctor who he is, and especially... And if that wasn't far enough, he does the same thing in Listen. But we'll get on to that when we talk about Series 8. Here's an interesting hypothesis, though. If Day of the Doctor and Time of the Doctor were included on Series 7, would it still rank in the same place?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on.
I hate Time of the Doctor, and Day of the Doctor is just mediocre and very disrespectful. The Russell T Davies Time War character arc, because it's basically saying the Doctor went through all of this hell and this depression and all of these challenges he's had to face post the Time War, and then it's all just magically undone because Clara fought for the children. Meaning that all of that pain and suffering that Russell T Davies wrote into the scripts are rendered meaningless. Because it was saved the whole time, because Clara fought for the children, and that made them be able to come up with a magic solution. You know,
It's very weird to hear you defend the Davies era.
Well, I mean, I don't think the Davies era is that bad.
No.
It's got its problems, and I'm not necessarily a fan of a lot of what it does, but I can respect good writing. And I can respect what he was trying to do with the whole Time War depression stuff, and sometimes it did really come off, especially in the Eccleston era. And the fact that that's now all rendered meaningless, just for the sake of some anniversary fluff spectacle, a bit shit in my opinion.
I think someone did make the point about that, though. We're really getting off topic. I apologise, but someone kind of did make the point that if the aim of the show is to go for as long as it can, like, I'm not saying it will go forever and anything, but you've got to think, what direction could you take the show in when Gallifrey is gone? I mean, forget the fact that Chris Chibnall just destroyed it again, but the fact that if it stayed the way it was with the Time War being time locked, we can never go back to Gallifrey. Where would future writers go with that? And obviously Chris has just ruined that for everyone else, but you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I don't see why it's such a problem. The only good episode that focuses on Time Lord Society is The Deadly Assassin, you know?
No, I just think...
It's like, there's not much... I don't feel there's that much material there with Gallifrey that hasn't already been covered by, like, some expanded universe stuff. You know, I don't think that Gallifrey really needs to be around to tell interesting stories. You can go anywhere and do everything. We don't need to go back and visit places we've already visited loads of times.
No, that's true, but I'm talking maybe about the overarching thing for the character, because the Doctor had been going through PTSD for about 7 seasons at this point, and...
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely have him get over the PTSD, but that doesn't mean you need to render that all meaningless by just saying, oh, well, he didn't have to the whole time, because he didn't do what made him, depressed.
I suppose that's kind of true, but moving on, at my 12th spot is Series 9. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I have a complete agreement, because that is my second worst as well.
Oh, wow, okay, so we got a match for the first one. So, since we got a match, do you want to talk about why you do not like Series 9?
Alright, so Heaven Sent is exempt from any of this criticism.
Of course.
It is a beautiful episode. I mean, it does have some of the problems in the way it ties into the really shit story arc.
I was always afraid of the hybrid.
Yeah, that. But aside from that, that's a beautiful... It's a piece of art. It's one of those few Doctor Who episodes that achieves, actually being fucking art, because it's great, and it's a really good metaphor for grief, and I love every bit about it. But aside from that, what a shockingly bad series. There's so many, really poor writing choices, and by this I'm talking about the fact that they just chose to bring back two-parters, which, good thing, yeah, but then they just completely misused them. So let me go through. Magician's Apprentice / Witch's Familiar. Magician's Apprentice is just a 45-minute long prologue to The Witch's Familiar. Nothing happens in it. It feels like a prologue. It doesn't advance the plot at all. It just gets all of the pieces on the board into Skaro, and that's it. It doesn't do anything with itself. So that's a waste of the two-part format. Under Late Fall Flood does it fine. Zygon Invasion version does it fine. But then you've got The Girl Who Died, Woman Who Lived. And it's like, they're two completely separate stories. How can this be considered a two-parter? And then also you've got Heaven Sent Hellbent. But you couldn't have two completely opposite stories if you tried. Yeah, they kind of are leading on to each other in terms of plot, but they're about completely different things, and have completely different tones, and they're completely different in quality. Like Heaven Sent's 10 out of 10, Hellbent is 1 out of 10. And then there's other problems beyond that, with the story arc of the hybrid just being... really crap. So now the Doctor didn't leave Gallifrey just because he was bored. He's no longer just this interesting rogue adventurer. He left because of the hybrid, which it's never properly explained what that is. A lot of people say that, it's meant to be the Doctor and Clara, but how can a hybrid be two separate people? And I don't know, it's like... Where would this prophecy even come from? And if, it's a problem, the Doctor having to bring back, he would break the laws of time and bring back a man who's died, why do you do it for Adric? It's like he was able to get back to Gallifrey at that point in the show. Why didn't he do that for Adric? Why is it only Clara that he does for? And then that's another problem. So one thing I actually really appreciate in Series 9 is in Face the Raven, they kind of built up this thing throughout the whole series. And Clara was trying too much to be like the Doctor and taking absurd risks. And you see that throughout the series. Then in Face the Raven, it climaxes with her paying the consequences for that, because not everybody can be like the Doctor, because they don't, have regenerative abilities. Or they don't have all of his experience he's got over time. But then that's all just rendered completely meaningless. That actually pretty decent ending for a character like, that's all ruined by, she can just be brought back and live forever, basically. Well, not forever, but she can live much longer than the natural lifespan would have been, just as long as she goes back and kills herself eventually. So, what a mess. And the quality of stories I thought was very low. So Magician's Apprentice, Witch's Familiar, I mean, as I said, Magician's Apprentice, completely prologue. Witch's Familiar, most of the episode is spent on this, what I thought at the time was like, wow, there's really nice interchange between the Doctor and Davros. But it turns out that was all a waste of time because neither of them meant it. It's like, okay. Then Under Lake Before Flood, that's okay. Girl Who Died, Woman Who Lived, a Shielder, a really annoying character who comes back throughout the series. I don't like what they did with her. And then also you got the Zygon Invasion, Zygon Inversion, an extremely heavy-handed political commentary that misses its own point, because it's meant to be about how war affects people on the ground, yet we just see soldiers for the vast majority of the runtime. And that speech was way too long and pretentious. I'm sorry, but it was. And then Hellbent is just an abomination. It just shows... So you spend all this time bringing back Gallifrey, only just to have an entire episode focused on Clara. Have the Doctor go really out of character by killing somebody in cold blood. Ugh. And also, Capaldi's Doctor's a big step down in this series as well, because I liked what they were trying to do in Series 8. It didn't quite work out, but I thought, okay, where they take it from here could be interesting. But then his personality just completely subverged, and all of a sudden he's basically just Matt Smith light.
I guess because all those Cybermen and crashed into the thing and the Brigadier showed up. He's nice. I don't know. I'm just making I'm making excuses. No,
Sorry for that really long waffle.
No, I really
have
appreciate
a big bone to pick with Series 9.
I really appreciate you said a lot of stuff that I was probably going to say as well, but I'll try and cover a bit more. One thing I don't understand about the Zygon invasion, don't they mention like 27 million Zygons have integrated into Britain or something like that? And I'm like, how?
I don't remember.
Like, it has something like that.
Isn't that like almost the whole population of Britain?
Yeah, I'm like, how did they manage to secretly do this? Like, are they taking human bodies? Is that not killing people? How did they manage to integrate into society? I don't understand, and it's very confusing. Maybe I'm just an idiot, and that's fine.
I mean, if that is what they said, then yeah, that is ridiculous. I mean, even if it was just like, a couple of hundred, it's still like, how would they manage to get, the paperwork and all that?
Yeah,
did UNIT help them?
It's established. Oh no, wait, it does say in Day of the Doctor, doesn't it? Obviously, they can shapeshift and. Oh wait, no, the Zygon's gonna. Whatever. I'm getting kind of confused, but if they are shapeshifting into someone else, wouldn't that mean they'd have had to kill that person? That's never explained.
Or keep them prisoner forever. Whether they have to keep them like prisoner forever.
Yeah, but then we're meant to feel really sorry for them. I'm like, but I'm so confused. Like, how many Zygons...
I never thought of that aspect, but you're right, that is bollocks.
How many Zygons were there meant to be in Day of the Doctor? Because obviously we don't see the end of that, like, peace treaty that's going on, so we don't know how it's resolved, but then we come back to it 2 seasons later, and then apparently tons of Zygons are just living around the world. I'm like, how many... I thought it was like 4 or 5. Where did millions come from? This is just weird.
I mean, didn't they have like a whole colony ship or something with Zygons in suspended animation?
They might have. I might have to rewatch.
Yeah, the Day of the Doctor. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they had.
Okay, yeah, then I'm probably wrong on that point, but I still don't know where millions and millions, like 27 million, managed to integrate on the planet. It's just a bit weird.
Yeah. I mean, if that figure is right, yeah. I mean, I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, that really isn't thought out.
Yeah.
At all.
Like Peter Harness just wanted to push this narrative, like, obviously these people are refugees, but it just handles it so poorly. So, like, the logic makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And you were right about the 2-parters. They were completely wasted because The Magician's Apprentice was basically just ticking off Capaldi's wish list for the season. It was. Let's be honest. We're going to get him on a guitar, and he's going to be on a tank, and he's going to say...
so clever!
He's going to say, dude! And then, he also wanted Michelle Gomez's face to pop out of the screen for some reason.
Why? That's like, out of all of Doctor Who, and that includes some of the worst effects of Classic Who, that is the worst special effect. It looks so stupid. How does it even work? What was the point?
Yeah, and then obviously in that scene in The Magician's Apprentice where the couple just walks past this quarantined zone. Just, oh my god. Just so Missy could make a clever line. Like, you literally just could have started this episode out with the Doctor in the Middle Ages hiding. Forget all this, we've got to contact UNIT and the planes have stopped and Missy has the confession that no one cares. Just start the episode in the medieval times and take it from there, and it's fixed. I would say the Under the Lake and Before the Flood, are those the 2 episodes?
Pardon?
The 2 episodes before, is it Under the
Lake? Under the Lake Before the Flood.
Yeah, I thought they were quite good. They weren't amazing, but like, I do like Toby.
Yeah, it was pretty standard stuff, but not bad.
I mean, I did want Toby Whithouse over Chris Chibnall originally. I don't know how I'd feel about that now.
Then Lie of the Land happened.
Yeah, okay, but in his defense, Moffat really screwed him over there because we rigged these 2 parts, which are hardly connected, but they sort of are. Then you set up all these stakes, and he's like, okay, Toby, you've got 45 minutes to do it. And, I would not have been able to do that. the best writer in the world would not have been able to pull that off because...
Maybe not, but he did it in the worst possible way.
I don't think the fake-out regeneration was him. I think that was Moffat, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, probably was.
I can imagine that.
I'm not defending Lie of the Land or Toby Whithouse, because that was just an appalling bit of writing. You could have done so much more, especially with the mind-blowingly brilliant idea he has about like the monks getting people to believe a different version of history, and then it just completely ignores that and just has like, you know, focuses on Bill and the Doctor just twaddling around everywhere rather than actually exploring the brilliant idea he had. And that's actually another thing I didn't mention earlier when I was talking about my summation of thoughts on New Who. How many great ideas are wasted in New Who? So many. Yeah. They haven't ran out of good ideas. They have so many of them all the time. But then the episodes either just aren't long enough to cater for it, or they just go in the direction that completely ignores that idea, and it's all about, you know, the Doctor going around saving the day or whatever.
Well, yeah, I'd even say Tim Shaw, in concept, could be a good villain, but he was just completely wasted.
It's because Chris Chibnall can't write dialogue, at least not in Doctor Who. I mean, I've heard his dialogue's better in other shows, but it certainly isn't in Doctor Who.
I mean, are Ashad and Tim Shaw just the same character? Let's be honest.
Who's the other one?
The lone
Who's
Cyberman. Ashad, there's a lone Cyberman.
Oh, right, is that the lone Cyberman? Well, yeah. I don't know, I really like the lone Cyberman.
You didn't?
Although he was completely wasted in the... No, I loved him.
Oh,
I didn't... In the Haunting of Villa Diodati, he was crap in Ascension Cyberman and the Timeless Children because they didn't develop him any further.
Yeah. I know we're getting a bit off topic, but can I ask why, if Chris was trying to create like this new intimidating villain, would he give him a stupid name?
I mean, just cheap laughs, I suppose. I mean... a lot of New Who's been pretty guilty of this. Maybe not the RTD era as much, but certainly the Moffat era.
No, but it was clear, like, with the writing that Chris was really trying to make this guy intimidating. He's going to be the next big villain, and then you literally just have the Doctor make fun of his name in the first time they meet, and it's like, what the hell?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Like, I know the Daleks have kind of been humiliated a few times, but originally they were quite intimidating and then got flanderized over time. We were talking about series 9, weren't we? We kind of got a bit off topic. But yeah, the same with Ashilda. I think the reason a lot of people hate Ashilda, not just because she's a bad character, which she is, but because the entire marketing for this was like, oh, Maisie Williams is in Doctor Who. It's Maisie Williams, and then she was made out to be like this big reveal in the trailer, and everyone, you know, was coming up with the usual theories. Is it Susan? Is it the Rani? No, it's just some character. And that's fine.
Well, I think what really rubs me the wrong way about her is she's got exactly the same kind of problem that a lot of Moffat era characters have, especially female characters for some reason. He struggles to write female characters. And it's just like really smug, exuding kind of, you know, ridiculous levels of, oh, I'm so great, I'm so special. And it's just like, how many people are going to be so great and so special, you know? It's like, I don't take it seriously anymore.
Yeah, and it makes the Doctor feel a lot more biased towards his female companions, because if any male companion acted like Clara, he'd just rip them apart. Like, not literally, just with verbally. Like, whenever Mickey was trying to act impressive, like, the Doctor would just give him shit. And I feel like, normally, with cocky people, he tries to bring them down, but when it's his female companions, he likes it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how Moffat writes it.
That's another thing I didn't mention about New Who, how, like, every companion needs to be, like, the most important woman ever. And to be fair, that's been something that's changed recently with Bill and the Chibnall era companions.
Yeah, but he just did the opposite with them and made them do nothing.
Well, I don't know, I feel Bill had a strong character.
I will get on to Bill when we get on to Series 10. As for Series 9, yeah, terrible. Apart from, obviously, Heaven Sent. And I don't even remember Sleep No More. I remember people were saying it was like the worst episode ever. I just remember thinking it was average.
I mean, it was shit, but it was the kind of shit where you can just forget it and move on.
Yeah, like, why were people saying out of everything, like, there's been such worse than this, and everyone was like, this is the definitive worst episode.
Yeah, no, it's the same for Into the Forest at Night. I just thought that was just a like a piece of fluff that I can forget. Why are people reacting so badly to this? Yet everybody was fine with Kill the Moon. You know, it confuses me what really riles other people up.
I mean, Forest of the Night just annoys me because I hate kids. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, but in 11th place, and we all know 11th is always the best, that's fine. But I have put Series 7, which you've already put.
Well, we've got it the other way around, because I've got Series 11 here.
Oh, that's crazy, but I will... I'll just go into why I've put Series 7 a little bit above, because obviously Series 9 has Heaven Sent, and Series 7 doesn't. But I kind of hate a lot more things about Series 9 than I do about Series 7. So I hate everything with the Daleks, with Davros, with, you know, just wasting Skaro, just putting fan service in there. Having Missy be incredibly obnoxious throughout the entire thing. And obviously Hellbent was just a major disaster. With Series 7... yes, a lot of it is not very great, but apart from Asylum of the Daleks, maybe a bit of The Angels Take Manhattan.
Oh.
Maybe the Snowmen, I don't particularly, apart from those episodes, I don't particularly hate anything else to do with, like, the continuity or just what really annoys me, and especially because I think Clara is much more annoying in Series 9 than she is in Series 7. Even though she has less of a character, she is more annoying in Series 9.
Now, look, I agree that there isn't really that many atrocious episodes in Series 7, but for me, one really good episode brings up a series far more than having episodes that aren't as terrible.
Yeah,
still bad.
I kind of understand.
Because what have I taken away from Series 7? Nothing. I never want to watch any of it ever again. Whereas with Series 9, I will come back to Heaven Sent throughout my entire life. Okay. So I've got to give it, so it just means, the way I rank this is how much of the series means a lot to me, you know? And Heaven Sent means a lot to me. Series 7 doesn't have anything like that, so that's my rationale.
Okay, but Series 7 has Brian, so it's automatically the best.
I mean, I barely remember him.
How dare you not remember Lord Brian of the Williams? You shall be punished for this. But yeah, Series 7, it's just an absolute mess, and I really wish we'd have got Victorian Clara instead of the Clara that we got. Not to mention, F for my boy Neil Gaiman for getting completely screwed with the Cybermen.
Oh, also, I've remembered another thing about Series 7. How much fucking Strax and the other two are in it. I hate that lot. They're very, very annoying.
I don't like Strax because in isolation he's not terrible, but just the concept really weakens the Sontarans. Like, remember I can't remember what, was it the Time Warrior?
That was the first one, yeah.
Yeah, and they're actually quite intimidating in that, and just over time they've been completely philanderized. Like you see in Time of the Doctor, they're just like comic relief and slapstick comedy. It's just lowbrow humor and it's kind of going to be hard to resurrect the Sontarans at this point.
And even if I was watching it without the context of the Sontarans, I'd still would hate them because I think the humor is terrible. It's not funny.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying there. I just don't like Strax in particular. Like, I think if it was just Jenny and Vastra, I really wouldn't mind it, because I like them both in A Good Man Goes to War.
The interspecies stuff is a bit weird, though.
Well, that's kind of just how humans are going to evolve. Like, in the second episode, is it End of the World? We literally, like, see the result of interspecies sex and stuff. I didn't know
I'll tell you some opinion that kind of relates to the Silurians in the Moffat era. What I loved about the Silurians in the first episode they were in is that the reason they struggled, like, that both sides couldn't really get on and couldn't, negotiate with each other and be able to share the world together, is just because they're so different. Like, Silurians are just very much not human. Like, not at all, not close, and they just see us as stupid, barbaric apes. Whereas in New Who, the Silurians talk and look like humans, so I don't think the conflict, like, it kind of undermines the conflict that's meant to happen between the humans and Silurians. I think Vastra is the best example of that. I mean, if she was just a human character, would you be able to tell the difference? Like, would you think, oh, that she's got some weird lines for a human? Not really.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. I maybe don't feel so passionately about it because I didn't grow up with the classic series, obviously, and so I'm not as passionate about the Silurians, but I completely understand what you're trying to say. And I think if I had more investment in it, it would probably piss me off more.
Yeah, I mean, I just love the original Silurians. That's a brilliant story.
It is really good. I think it's been over a year since I've seen it, but yeah, I do remember having quite fond memories about it. And I like the conflict at the end as well. It's not really conflict, but the Brigadier gets the orders and then goes against the Doctor, and it's a nice moment between the Doctor and Liz as well.
I wish they'd explored that more. Like, have the Doctor be more pissed off with the Brigadier. And to be fair, I think Inferno is almost like a kind of subtle callback to that part of the series by showing the Brigadier, all well and good, but he does have a dark side to him, and you kind of see that in the Brigade Leader, how he's very different in a different setting.
Yeah, that's why I really like the Brigadier as a character, because you think if a character like that now was in New Who, you'd just have all the characters condemning him. No! You'd just have all the characters completely condemning him, like if he makes a one-off comment about a woman getting me a coffee, and they just cancel the Brigadier. They'd cancel the Brigadier. I don't know, but Capaldi kind of cancelled. Well, the 12th Doctor cancelled the first Doctor in Twice Upon a Time, so it wouldn't surprise me if they did it to Cyberbrig as well.
Oh, don't even remind me of that. How disrespectful. So when somebody's just died to bring back their character as a Cyberman. Yeah. It's like, it was like in a zombie film, a famous zombie actor had just died and they bring him back as a zombie.
It's literally meant to be this horrifying thing to become a Cyberman, but this is treated like, oh, it's so heroic. It's okay. And how does he have control of his emotions? It's just never explained. Is it because of the power of love again? I think it is. I actually think it is. Because he saves his daughter and then he's been going about love the whole episode. It's just ridiculous, honestly.
I hate how many New Who stories involve the power of love overcoming conflict.
No, but you know what I want to happen now? I want Chris Chibnall in Series 13 to write that the reason the Doctor is the only person who was born with regenerative powers is because the future incarnation has become so famous that they pray to the Doctor every night and it gave the baby Doctor powers. That is going to be the explanation, okay? That is going to be it. And it's going to be like, the whole world now prays to the Doctor and it gave the past baby Doctor ability to regenerate. And I don't know.
We must all join the cult of the Doctor or lose our souls.
They should do an episode, right? Because Moffat tried to do the story arc of the Doctor becoming too big for his boots. If Doctor Who was higher age rating, I'd just like to see a scenario where he just starts his own church and starts converting everyone to his religion, and it'd be quite funny to me.
Oh Christ, that would be fun. Looks like we're going in that direction as well.
The religion of TARDIS. So your pick was Series 11. You kind of went into it before, but if you want to expand upon it, then feel free.
Not really. I feel we covered everything pretty nicely earlier.
Yeah.
And again, I think the main issue with this series is there isn't that much awful. I mean, I do hate Arachnids in the UK and the Zaranga conundrum, but I just didn't take much away from it. To be fair, Rosa was kind of enjoyable. Demons of the Punjab was kind of enjoyable, and I liked It Takes You Away, but none of them massively stood out to me. And again, it's like there's no episode I'm going to be rushing back to in that series.
If Rosa was a pure historical and Chris Chibnall was nowhere near it, then it would probably be a great episode.
Oh yeah, I mean all of the historicals in this series should have been pure historicals because the alien elements I felt either wasted the time of the episode or were just crap. I think the main one with Rosa is how much, more exciting would it be? How much better of an episode would it be if it was just like, it was the Doctor had accidentally fucked up the timeline and had to, make up for a mistake rather than like mysterious space racist who's racist for no reason. He just is racist. That is his personality.
I think that was like, I'm not saying it was executed correctly, but I think that was meant to be the point they were trying to make. Like, oh, some people are just racist and that's how it is. They don't have reasons. I don't know.
It's like, usually it's something that's happened in somebody's life that's kind of driven them to these weird extremes, Yeah. Maybe exploring that might have been much more insightful social commentary.
Like, even Genesis of the Daleks made a comment about how young the generals were, and that in a way that was kind of meant to not make you feel sorry for them, but kind of empathise why they're in that situation, because it's very clear that they've just been indoctrinated their entire lives. So even that with the Iron Crosses is more subtle than the space racist.
Yeah, and it's like, you've got people there who, they're maybe higher ups in this fascist society, but they're not necessarily fascist themselves, like Garmin, They're just products of the society they're in, and they're not necessarily bad people.
Yeah, and they make that point really well, whereas, like I say, if Chris had said it, you just have Tom Baker going up saying, "You're very young. You must have been indoctrinated. Yes, that is what is happening." So that's just...
there was literally a line like that in the sentence time where it's like, that's what I call inner conflict. And it's like, thanks for spelling that out, Doctor.
Yeah. No, that was Yaz who said that. No.
No. But there was another line Yaz said as well.
Yaz said literally conquering her fears. That was Yaz's line. She literally said that. That's an actual line in the entire thing. No, but nothing tops a dog was pissing on our tent. Nothing will ever top it. I'm sorry, but it will not be topped by anyone. And like, I love how Yanto just starts crying after it. Apologies for getting off topic again. My number 10 pick is Series 12.
Yeah, so mine is actually, this might be quite controversial, the specials.
Okay. I will go first on Series 12. So, there's probably an argument that Series 11, objectively, just in terms of how it technically functions, is probably better than Series 11. But I'm just going to admit right now that I am a stupid fanboy who will fall for all the mystery boxes. And I apologise.
I hate the mystery boxes.
No, I do as well, but I approach the series like, although it's probably going to be bad, at least it will be somewhat interesting, and I guess the reaction to it was kind of interesting, so I kind of took that enjoyment out of it. It's just with Series 11, it gave me nothing to want to discuss, nothing to really hang on to, whereas Series 12, even though I don't particularly like it, it's at least given me something that made me want to watch. Sacha Dhawan in Spyfall Part 2 was good. Didn't like him much in The Timeless Children. I think he went way too over the top and just really Looney Tunes at time. Like even John Sim or Anthony Ainley did not go that far, and I don't know if that's
actually,
more down to
Can I change my ranking, actually? Is just talking about Series 12 made me think, actually, let's put the specials above it.
Okay. So, wait, are you literally putting Series 12 in 10th then?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, it deserves to be there.
Okay. So, do you have anything else to say about Series 12?
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of suffered from a similar problem with Series 11 in terms of, not struggling to really write lots of compelling stories. Like, an episodes like Praxis and Can You Hear Me, I just could not think of what to say about them. And I think the best evidence of that is the discussion I did with other people on literally devolved into, us talking about straws. That's how little we had to say about Praxis. But then it tried to mix it up with, another mystery box, that Moffat did loads of times, and they were so great, weren't they? And then it turns out in the end, the mystery box, it's this big law-changing thing, but it's not actually going to have any impact because Jodie says, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm just still going to be me. So it's resolved within a second of expositioning it out to us. And I didn't feel this was much of an improvement on Series 11. It was at least a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
But still, I wasn't a fan.
Okay, I will defend a moment in The Timeless Children, although I do not like the episode. The moment that you're talking about where the Doctor says she's over it, I kind of have a feeling she was only saying that to the Master, because when she goes into the TARDIS and she's being playful and sarcastic, you do kind of see a look on her face like she's really worried and like we're kind of going to go looking for that. Because obviously Chris did say not everything was going to get explained, and that Captain Jack probably will come back at some point. And I'm not using the excuse of, oh, we'll explain it later, but I don't think the intention of that line was to say, oh, it just doesn't matter to the Doctor at all. I think she was once just saying that to the Master because it would piss the Master off and put him in a situation.
The Master wasn't even there, was he, when she said that?
No, because he said it to her.
No, didn't she say that after, like, coming out of it or something? Or maybe I'm misremembering this.
Oh, wait, she says... No, the Roof Doctor says, when have you let your past define you? And maybe Jodie's Doctor sort of agreed with it, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily... It still means nothing. Like, there's been moments where, I don't know, the Doctor pretends he doesn't think about Gallifrey much, although he does. And I'm not using the Dr. Lies excuse either, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that episode just did absolutely nothing.
No, that's fair.
With any of its like, it brought up these, like, you know, earth-shattering concepts that are maybe not necessarily found, but then just instantly discards them after it's been expositioned.
Yeah, like, it's just sounded like a good story in Ascension originally. Like, oh, these humans are hiding out, and the Cybermen are coming to convert them. It's like, wow, that's a good concept. And then Cyberhead.
And you see, what they should have done with the finale is just not had the Cybermen involved.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really do anything anyway. So then just so have the reveal earlier on, and then actually do something with it.
Yeah, I want to say that this is my headcanon now, that in the 5 Doctors, the Master becomes so annoyed with the Cybermen that he made it his goal to involve them in every elaborate plan that he does in the future. That's the only way that explains, like, they pissed him off so much in the 5 Doctors that he's like, I'm just going to make you my bitch. And he did it, well, she did it in Death in Heaven, and then... I suppose... John Sim wasn't in control of them, but he was sort of egging the creation on, I guess.
And why was he actually there? Was that ever explained?
Oh, yeah. What happened was... They say, oh, I think the Time Lords cured your little condition, which doesn't make any sense, because Rassilon was literally about to kill the Doctor, and then they get transported back to Gallifrey in the end of time, and then...
that was retconning his shit character that wasn't the Master.
Okay, but no, what happens is, like, Rassilon's about to kill the Doctor, and then the Master is trying to kill Rassilon, but obviously Rassilon doesn't die. I don't know if that's what makes him regenerate, but then the Doctor says, oh, so you... they cured your little condition and they kicked you out. And it's like, okay, the Time Lords hate the Master. Why would they cure him of this condition?
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
Well, I didn't understand that. Like, Rassilon would just have him killed instantly. But,
indeed.
So yeah, basically he crash landed and then his navigation... So I can't remember exactly what it is. I know people will correct me in the comments. Was broken. So then, obviously, Missy had one because of Tiny Miami and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, it's a quick line, which is what Moffat usually does to just explain plot holes.
Yeah, I mean, it is another contrivance. Yeah, got a lot of good contrivance in New Who.
Do you remember when we literally got the series arc, the entire series arc of the 11th Doctor, in like 30 seconds of dialogue?
When was that?
In Time of the Doctor.
So when does that happen?
Okay, so he's on board with Tasha Lem, and they're talking about how the Kavarian chapter separated from, you know, the Tasha Lem sector, whatever. And then they say, oh yeah, the Silence tried to destroy the TARDIS. And then, so that makes it so they created the cracks in time in the first place. So they literally caused it. They literally caused it and they were trying to stop it. So they're idiots.
Wow. That very much feels like Moffat started writing that story arc without any idea
even though Time of the Doctor,
the ending would be.
Even though Time of the Doctor is not that good, after this, just go and watch that scene. It's so bad. Like, 3 years of build-up and he just says it so casually in 30 seconds. And that's why no one even understands what it was meant to be, because you can just miss it so easily. It's honestly ridiculous.
Yeah, what crap ongoing story that was.
I know. I would say, going back to Series 12, my favourite episode of probably the Chibnall era was The Haunting of Villa Diodati.
Me too. I really liked that episode. It was, for once, like, the side characters felt really well-rounded, which is something that the Chibnall era has very much struggled with, and they were really good to watch. They had some quality actors doing it. And then the Lone Sidemen, what a brilliant take on an age-old villain who's been stale for a very long time. Yeah. It was completely wasted by essentially the Sidemen, where they just take it absolutely no further.
Well, I think that's Chibnall's fault.
Yeah, but Maxine Alderton, very good writer. Like, if she'd had the chance to write the actual next bit of the story with the Cybermen, I think it would have been a brilliant episode. And I'm looking forward to her increased involvement in Series 13. But on the other hand, I loved Ed Heim's script last series, and his one this series was a bit crap, so...
Well, that just happens, because, like, Jamie Matheson had Flatline and Mummy on the Orient Express, but then he had the one with Maisie Williams in it.
But then he had Oxygen, and that all made up for everything.
Yeah, I guess so. But Series 12 is underwhelming, but at least somewhat interested me. I think if this had come out around, like, 2011, I would be a lot more disappointed with it.
Yeah, I didn't like it that much.
No.
People are saying, like, oh, it's one of the best series ever. What time to be a Doctor Who fan? And I just don't get it. Like, I've never been so unenthused by Doctor Who. It's like, even when it was awful, under Moffat, it's like I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to, go around and have a good rant. Don't even want to do that anymore. I just want to go and retreat into my little classic Who and Big Finish tent and not think about it.
I was the least infused after Death in Heaven, like, for a while, and then Series 9 comes along, which makes it worse. And then Series 10 is what really got me kind of back on board.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to getting Series 10.
Wow, I'm just spoiling the whole list here. Like, people are just going to guess what I'm going to put. Okay, so in 9th place, I actually have the same as you, the 2009 specials.
Yeah, so The Waters of Mars is great. No, that is a great episode. Really enjoy it. Really enjoy how it's just got, some classic villain monsters. And I'm not a big fan of this whole Time Lord Victoria stuff. I get what it's trying to do, and I get why people really like it, but I just feel that it's a little bit over the top bollocks for me. But the base Under Siege stuff, it's all really good. And the conflict that he has there, a very interesting one. Although, I mean, just what kind of the Time Lord Victoria stuff that undermines it for me is the fact that the Doctor meddles in all of these events, which presumably change the outcome of history all the time. Yet he can't this one. I don't know. The whole fixed point in time stuff. They shouldn't have delved into it, because in trying to explain it, it just is contradicted by 1,000,001 episodes in the past.
I think because how many important historical figures has he changed the lives of, like, that had an impact on humanity? Because it is explained that Adelaide's Brook leads to, like, her grandmother being inspired and going to, I think is it Venus? I'm not too sure. Or, like, they travel through light speed.
Yeah. I think, but you've got to remember the butterfly effect. Any little change will inevitably have massive repercussions on like a long period of time, just because one little change might change somebody's mindset in a certain day, which doesn't set in chain a domino of unrelated events that end up with a big change happening. So yeah, I think it's just best to ignore that kind of stuff in Doctor Who. Like, just ignore how time travel works and just don't think about it and enjoy the story they're trying to tell.
Yeah, that's probably true, because if you went into all the logistics of Turn Left, you would find a lot of plot holes, but that's not the point of the story, and you're not meant to take away the logistical elements of it.
Yeah, because the creatures from Fires of Pompeii would have taken over the Earth.
Yeah, but like I said, that doesn't really
matter. Don't think about it, yeah.
Yeah, that's like, obviously a plot hole that is like so in your face and so obvious, but that's just something like, this is an alternate universe, so I just take it as, oh, I guess they didn't exist in this universe or whatever. I don't know.
Or maybe they made a mistake and didn't do it because, like, one of them tripped on the banana peel or something like that,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff doesn't matter. Doctor Who is fine. Doctor Who can reset each week in that kind of sense.
Okay, it is kind of fixed in some way, though, because he does say at the end of the episode in Turn Left that it's part of the Trickster's Brigade, and the Trickster in the Sarah Jane Adventures can change certain outcomes depending on someone's future. So, like, Sarah Jane points out when he's erased it from time, okay, well, what about the Slovene invasion and whatever else has come? He said, oh, I've removed them. I'm just adding this meteor because it's total chaos. So it's possible that they were able to undo certain events to just cause chaos. Like,
but I just think it just doesn't matter. Just don't get into how time travel works, because time travel's ridiculous. It's bollocks. Like, don't try to explain it. People can just accept that, they're travelling around and the time travelling doesn't really have much of an impact, Yeah. Like, just do that, because that's the only way the show can work without contradicting itself,
I suppose so, but at the same time, I'd kind of like to see more stories where time gets messed with and we see the consequences of that, because that's something we never really do.
Yeah.
It's okay, so what about the other episodes in the special?
Well, as I said, What Was Mars is good, but Planet of the Dead, what a dull, uninspired crap episode that is. And then The End of Time, I've said I'm never going to talk about The End of Time again, so I'm going to talk about it.
Okay, well, what about The Next Doctor? Because I'm counting.
I'd forgotten about that one.
How do you Okay.
I mean, I don't remember a single thing about it. I mean, it's an episode of Doctor Who. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's alright.
Yeah, he's really good in it, to be honest, and he actually outdoes Tennant in a few scenes. But apart from
David Morrissey should actually be a Doctor. He'd be great.
Yeah, I can. He definitely adds this very Victorian feel, because obviously that's where they're from. They're from the 1800s. I've also noticed that Rosita is literally a mix of his previous three companions. Rosita, obviously named Rose, she's got, black skin like Martha, and she's kind of mouthy like Donna.
What a similarity! Yeah, happens to share the same skin color. They must be related.
No, I'm not saying they're related, but I'm saying they've all got like a similarity. Like she kind of has like Donna's attitude and whatever. I don't know what of Martha's she has, but I don't know. I just thought that was worth pointing out. Next Doctor, the Cybermen are completely wasted in this. What do you think of the Cyber Dogs?
Honestly, I haven't seen this episode since 2009, I couldn't tell you.
Do you not remember the Cyber Dogs?
Very vaguely.
They were kind of creepy, but they looked a bit weird because they were just like wearing fur coats, and it just looked strange.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it doesn't look very mechanical.
No, like they're meant to have taken the brains from like cats and dogs, so I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but it's the fact that Cybermen are they're not just brains. It's about human bodies being, combined with, bionic technology. Whereas in this case, if it's just the brain, so what is that actual body? Because it looks so organic. I mean, what is it? What is it meant to be? I don't know. I don't understand that.
Well, actually, the Cybermen are meant to be big, scary armies.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah. My favourite generic robot army is the Cybermen, who are just robots, like the Daleks.
It's amazing. I don't hate The End of Time as much as you, but I don't really like it either. It does a lot of stuff wrong. I think the performances are good as always, but Russell just gets really self-indulgent, and it's so tonally inconsistent. Like, 1 minute it's the Master is returning. He is returning, and then 1 minute it's like,
through magic.
I locked the car. Yeah, he's like, I locked the car. See, I locked it like a car. And like, in some scenes, you actually feel like a laugh track is gonna happen, because there's meant to be this really serious chase scene, which is stupid, where like the Master goes full Iron Man, and the Doctor's chasing them, and then Murray Gold's epic theme comes in, and then Wilf stops him, and then Minnie just feels his ass. It's really weird. Like, how totally inconsistent this is. Like, that was my long lost friend who died, and he's evil, and he's probably up to whatever, and I'm gonna die soon. oh, but let's have this comedic scene with all these old people as well.
Yeah, let's be sexually assaulted by an old woman. Because, when an old women sexually assault you, it's just funny.
Like, sometimes you can do tonal shifts really well. Like, I think it's done really well in something like The Partner of the Ways, where the Doctor's acting all cocky, I'm the oncoming storm, and he's smiling to them. But then as soon as he closes that door, you see his head against the door, just like he's already lost. And I like moments like that, whereas...
because that's about his psychology. He's trying to act or put on a brave face in front of the Daleks because he needs to.
Yeah, exactly. But the tonal
whereas this
shift...
is just in this case it's literally just like a third party coming in and being awkward and silly.
Yeah,
in what's meant to be a serious scene.
Like it would make sense. Like the scene in Doomsday. I'm not necessarily a massive Doomsday fan, but where the Doctor just walks in the room and he's being all casual with the Daleks. Like that's obviously intentional. Because he's trying to sort of hide his real feelings, because we got that all out. We didn't need another Dalek-like speech, because he's encountered them twice now. So he's still unhappy about it, but he's just trying to play the game now, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Whereas End of Time is just... I think Part 2 is probably more tonally consistent, but it's still not... It still has moments.
It's really the self-indulgence and the whining the 10th Doctor does are some of the big things I know. But as I said, I'm not going to get into it because I've got two really big videos on the End of Time. I used to get into lots of debate about it, and I've just had enough of talking about it, to be honest. So if you really want to know my opinion on the End of Time, go on my channel and watch the End of Time, right?
Yeah, I will do that at some point. I think I've seen it before, but I'll definitely do it again.
Yeah. What a beautiful video that was.
Okay, so at number 8, ironically, is Series 8.
Series 6 is there for me.
Ooh, okay. So Series 8. Basically, the whole thing around this series was we're going to make the Doctor dark. Don't forget the fact that they already did that in seasons 5 and 6, but more subtly, and the same person did it. But instead of making the Doctor dark in a cunning, manipulative way, the same way McCoy or even Matt Smith were, he was just a full-on sociopath, and it made no sense for the character whatsoever. Not even William Hartnell's Doctor at the very start was this heartless, and it just is very jarring for what they're trying to do for the character.
I don't know, I quite like that, to be honest.
No, I get it, but when he has lines like, oh, she's my carer, she cares, so I don't have to. And then in Series 9, you have, the cue cards, and it's like, what?
Well, that was Series 9, actually, the cue cards.
No, I know, I'm just saying, with Series 9 as well. Just stuff like that, with the Doctor's character, trying to make him literally a sociopath, didn't make much sense. I like the idea of a Doctor Darker, but a darker Doctor, but I just think it was very heavy-handed in the way it was approached, and it was kind of done in a very childlike way. This is my idea of what dark is. He wears dark and he has angry eyebrows, so he's dark. That's pretty much it.
I can kind of see what you're saying there, but I really enjoyed a lot of the dialogue, and I feel that they definitely could have went in a good direction with it. But the one place where I will say there's an issue is the fact that it wasn't the darkness was very superficial. And they were trying to do it through this whole thing of him, the am I a good man stuff, which was ridiculously pretentious and didn't really go anywhere at all. And then once he says, oh, I'm not a good man or a bad man, I'm a man with a box, his personality magically changes to becoming Matt Smith. And, he's no longer dark and edgy. It's I don't know.
Yeah, Series
I would
9...
have liked to have seen more of that Doctor. I mean, basically, when Peter Capaldi was the Doctor, he should have just been Malcolm Tucker as the Doctor without the swearing,
That would have been amazing. Yeah, they do make a reference to that in Darkwater, don't they?
I mean, one of my favourite... Because I'm not a big fan of Capaldi as the Doctor, but in Series 8, I like kind of where they were going at times, and one of my favourite lines his Doctor ever says is when they're in the Dalek, and they're saying, oh, where's the person who just died? Says, because they're in little digestive bit, and he's like, oh, they're in the top layer if you want to say a few words. It's just, oh, please, yes, I like this dialogue. I'm sick of soppy doctors. But then we got a soppy Doctor again after that.
Yeah, I kind of did like the fact that he was about like, yeah, I'm not getting caught up on all this soppy stuff. We're getting to the real deal. I kind of like that, but then there were just moments where he literally either come across as a sociopath or a psychopath. I don't know, there's not really a standout episode in this series for me.
Flatline?
No, I think it's good, but I think it's like a 7, 8 out of 10 for me. And it's not like...
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's an 8 out of 10, but for New Who, an 8 out of 10 is pretty standout.
But, I don't know, other series have just had episodes that I've really liked a lot more, and as much as I hate to admit this, and this is what Chris Chibnall has done to me, since I've watched all of the Chibnall era, okay, you might probably disown me for this, but it's somewhat made me appreciate Clara slightly more.
Oh, no. Clara is bad in her own way. Okay. Don't just because you don't like the series 11 and 12 doesn't make Clara any better.
I'm not saying she's good, but at least there was some sort of conflict. At least they were trying to do something in Series 8, whereas I don't get what they're trying to do at all in the Chibnall era. And I'm not saying I like what they did with the character, because I don't. This idea of, like, a companion acting too much like the Doctor can work in theory, but I think you would also need a third companion to contrast that. Because if you just have the Doctor and a companion who acts like the Doctor, it doesn't necessarily work. But I like it. I don't know, I like...
Well, I think why it didn't work is because they acted like she was this really great and most important person ever. And what I appreciate about Series 9 is that they try to show, well, acting like this has consequences, but then obviously that was completely underwritten by Hell Bent. And that's why it was poorly managed. It's like somebody acting like the Doctor, well, that's just going to get them killed. And that's what Series 9 tried to do, but then just completely rendered it meaningless.
Exactly. Yeah. That was... But I don't know, I just think, like, obviously she has a lot more to do than in Series 7. They actually tried to develop a character a bit, but some of it was very jarring and didn't make any sense, like in Listen, where she just says horrible stuff to Danny for no reason other than plot convenience. Like, she literally makes jokes about him killing children, and you're like, what the hell? Where did that come from?
Yeah, Series 8, Yeah, I mean, I like Mummy on the Orient Express and Flatline, but aside from that, there's not really...
I like Mummy on the Orient Express as well, that's okay.
Yeah, and then also you've got kind of Kill the Moon and Death in Heaven, which are two absolutely atrocious episodes.
Yeah, Dark Water is very overrated.
Dark Water's okay. It's not bad. It's not that good, but it's alright. And then Death in Heaven is just ridiculously poor.
Death in Heaven is awful.
I need to do an in-depth video on that at some point, because that's definitely an episode that deserves more scorn than it gets.
Absolutely, because like everyone gives all the stick to Hellbent, and I'm not saying it's worse than this or better than it, but this definitely deserves much more scrutiny for literally turning the Cybermen into robots. Like, okay, we've been doing that a bit over the past few years, but we haven't gone fully, oh yeah, you can literally just voice control the Cybermen. Like, the Cybermen are literally Alexa in this episode.
I don't know, I mean, I feel that had already been going on before, because you remember, I do like this story, bear in mind, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel. The Doctor's able to use the sonic screwdriver to make the Cybermen go away.
Are you talking about Age of Steel?
Yes.
Well, it's sort of, but isn't it because Mickey sends him the code on his phone?
No, I'm pretty sure he just sonics them and they go away.
No, that doesn't happen.
He does, when they're at the bins, he lifts his sonic up and then they walk away.
Well, when they're at the... No, you mean the Christmas invasion with the Santa things?
No, this is in Rise of Cybermen Age of Steel. So they're hiding in amongst these bins, the Cybermen find them, and then the Doctor sonic screwdrivers them, and then they march on.
I'll have to watch that.
It does happen, I remember the scene.
It's been... Isn't it like a distraction that he causes?
No. He's, like, the Cybermen see them, they know they're there, then he sonics them, and then they walk away.
I'll have to rewatch that, because I haven't seen that in quite a while.
I'm absolutely certain that happens.
Okay, I'll have to watch it again at some point. I will take your word for it, though. But I still think that episode was a lot better handled, even if... I know you're
well, yeah, because they're just the Missy's bitch in this one.
Yeah, and not to mention the whole Missy reveal was handled poorly, because if you... Like, imagine the Professor Yana reveal, but just every episode of Series 3, he just shows up at the end. Like,
I mean, the worst part is when she kisses the Doctor. Well, not kisses, sexually assaults the Doctor.
Yes. But of course, because the gender's reversed, it doesn't count and whatever they want to say.
I mean, to be fair, these days people would call that shit out.
Yeah, but
think.
like back then they wouldn't. And I'm not saying like Moffat's a piece of shit for that. He probably just didn't get.
I think no, Moffat's into it, man. Like, have you seen all of the ridiculous dominatrixy characters he makes?
That's true.
He brings way too much of his own sexuality into writing Doctor Who.
Yeah, have you seen the Series 6 trailer? Like, there is a shot where it looks like River Song is naked. Like, honestly,
I think I remember that, actually.
Watch it again, and it's like, you just can't see the bottom of it, but it really looks like she's naked and she winks, and I don't remember that ever being in the series, and I'm like, was that just like Moffat's private recording that he accidentally put in the trailer? He's just getting fucking Alex Kingston to do all kinds of shit, I don't know. But yeah, Series 8 is just... It has okay ideas, but you can kind of see that Moffat maybe wanted to leave at this point, and his idea was like, let's just have fun because it's Peter Capaldi and he can say good lines, whereas it felt like for the start of the Smith era he sort of had a vision for what he wanted the character to be, not necessarily all the story arcs, but with Capaldi he was like, okay, how can I just have fun with this, because he was kind of bored with it at that point.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so do we want to move on, or you got anything else to say about Series 8?
No,
wait. What was your
Series 6?
Okay, go through Series 6.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a few good episodes in this series. I love The Girl Who Waited. That one's brilliant.
Yeah.
Really, like, I don't like Amy for most of the time, but they managed to make her really good in that episode, and I think it's a very good example of, like, you know, the Doctor doesn't always win. Sometimes he has to do something that's pretty awful and deal with the consequences of it.
It's one of my favourite 11 moments, definitely.
Oh, definitely. I love that. And I love how it's not the Doctor, he's the hero who can solve anything. Sometimes he does shitty things. And that's way more interesting than just some ever-pervasive hero. But a lot of it I really dislike. I think the story arc is... really crap and ill thought out. I like the ambition, but it was really poorly executed. It doesn't feel like Moffat really knew where he was going. And then you've got episodes like Let's Kill Hitler, which are literally just 45-minute long teaser trailers for what the story arc's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's like all that episode was. Like, the only thing that furthered was River Song, was that child regenerating into River Song. That's the only change that made to the series. There's an episode that didn't really do anything of itself. It did nothing with the kind of, you know, morality of should you go back in time and kill Hitler. It did none of that. It just shoved him in a cupboard, literally. And then the Wedding of River Song, what a mess that was. Like, you know, because he changed time all of a sudden. There's like, you know, Emperor Churchill with pyramids in London and trains going at the pyramids. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And yeah, he just didn't feel like he knew where he was going with the story arc, and as a result, it feels a bit like a mess. And then there are quite a few pretty bad stories. As I said, Let's Kill Hitler, Wedding of River Song, but particularly Closing Time, where they literally unconvert Craig from a Cyberman through the power of love because he hears his baby crying.
Yeah.
That is horrific writing.
If Craig
I don't enjoy the series at all.
If Craig had have died at the end of Closing Time, how would you rate the episode still?
I would hate it because I still don't like Craig. It wouldn't be one of the worst about that, but the rest of it was really insipid and annoying anyway. It still wouldn't be in my good books.
Okay. I don't mind Series 6 as much as a lot of other people do. I don't think it's brilliant. I do admit that the story arc is quite bad and really lazily written, but there's a lot of individual stories that I do really like, removing the context of all the overarching story stuff that doesn't really get concluded very well. I think the openers are quite good. The Impossible Planet and Day of the Moon, I quite enjoy that. I'm probably one of millions of people who actually liked Curse of the Black Spot.
Oh, it was awful.
I'm probably the only person who actually liked it, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just being nostalgic. I won't rule that out at this point. The Doctor's wife I used to really like, but I kind of see it has more flaws now. But I like all the stuff with.
I mean, I liked it originally, and then I came back to watch it, and it was just so muffatty and smug.
Yeah,
and, it's just like, oh no,
like, it really feels
off.
like he definitely had his hands in the script. You can really tell.
It's like the best bit was the bit in the TARDIS, and it there was very clearly the Neil Gaiman bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that covers like only a tiny fraction of the episode.
But imagine
like, it was not a bad story, but I don't think it's as good as people say.
I think if the entire episode took place in the TARDIS with House just manipulating all three of them, it could have been like similar to the Satan Pit or the Impossible Planet.
Yeah.
It was like,
and also it would be a great opportunity for character development in terms of showing their like inner fears and what they think about each other through how he would manipulate the TARDIS. Yeah. And that's kind of what it does, but imagine a whole episode of that. It would have been some great, proper horror.
Yeah, like, one of the best scenes is where Amy finds Rory's skeleton, or when she finds him, like, after like 2,000 years. I mean, okay, it's Rory dying
hate
again.
Hate Amy.
Yeah, that was so dark, honestly, and I love it, and I'm like, I wish we'd get more of that. And it's really good, even though, yes, Rory has been killed how many times at this point, but just in isolation, it's a brilliant...
I mean, that wasn't real as the difference. That was like, Amy being tortured with hallucinations.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose. But it just became like a real trope at that point to kill Rory.
Oh yeah, how many times did he die?
Okay,
lot,
so
I believe.
He originally died in the Hungry... Okay, what's the episode after the Hungry Earth? It's a two-parter, isn't it? Cold
Hungry
Blood.
Earth, Cold Blood.
Yeah, Cold Blood.
Oh yeah, he does die in that.
Yeah, so he dies in Cold Blood. Then he dies in Curse of the Black Spot. Well, sort of dies. He like drowns and then gets saved, and Amy has to give him CPR and stuff. Then when does he next die after that? I don't actually remember.
Oh wait, no, he died in Pandora Wrote Was Big Bang, Team Norton.
No, wait, when did he die in that? He came back in that. I don't remember him dying.
Oh right, yeah, no, you're right. Sorry.
No, I'm just trying to think what else he actually did die in. I just can't remember. It's probably... That might have been the last time, but I'm not certain.
No, I'm pretty sure there was more.
There might have been later on. Oh, no, sorry. The first time, it was a fake-out in Amy's Choice. I remember now.
Oh, yeah.
I'd completely forgotten about that. I've actually forgotten what series we were talking about. Series 6, that was it. The second half, I actually don't mind either, just apart from Closing Time and The Wedding of River Song. And apart from Let's Kill Hitler, that's pretty bad as well.
So apart from half of it, it's alright.
Yes. No, listen. Night Terrors is not that bad. I'm just going to say, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad, but it's also nowhere near good.
Okay, it's alright. I have a guilty pleasure for it. The God Complex is a decent story.
That's alright.
Sorry, what?
I said that's alright.
Alright.
God Complex.
Yeah, I do like parts of the God Complex. I love The Girl Who Waited a lot more. I'm trying to think if there's any episodes I've missed out. But one thing I would say is the whole thing about Amy and Rory leaving the TARDIS is that it should have happened in The Girl Who Waited, and then the God Complex should have been the Doctor on his own. That would have made more sense.
That would have made a lot of sense, yeah.
Because then when we see Amy and Rory's little cameo in Closing Time, it's meant to be like this aw moment, but it's literally been an episode and a half, like just an episode since we've seen them. So it just feels really
it's like,
weird.
Don't you miss them already? It's like, no, Amy's a horrible character who abuses Rory. I'm trying to rape the Doctor, why would I like it?
Maybe. But we'll get into that another time, I think. So... The next ranking is my 7th place, and I have Series 2.
Series 8 for me. We've already discussed Series 8. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, we pretty much did. If you've got anything else to add, that's fine.
Nah. Oh, the one thing I will say quickly, as I just remember this. Remember when Moffat said that Series 8 was going to be the biggest departure since the beginning of New Who? It was going to be a really dark series. Yeah, none of that happened, did it?
No, I don't...
It's pretty par for the course for a New Who series. Anyway, yeah, so Series 2.
So, yeah, Series 2... I think a lot of this series, it's not bad, but it depends on how you feel about Rose and Tennant together. Not like together as in a relationship, I just mean like as a team, companion team. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I didn't mind her with Eccleston, even though I wasn't a big fan of her. I kind of read the character flaws in series 1 as actual character flaws, but then in series 2, a lot of it's just treated like she's always in the right, even when she isn't. I mean, series 1 sort of did that a bit, but you would still have a few characters calling her out here and there. Like, you had the Doctor having a go at her in Father's Day. Mickey really had a go at her in, like, Boomtown and Aliens of London. So she would get, like, stuff said to her, and maybe she did a little bit in series 2, but she just became, like, really too big for herself. Really, like Clara. Series 2 Rose is a bit like Clara, but maybe not as bad. And I think a lot of the series really depends on that, because I think a lot of the individual episodes are quite decent. I think the Cyberman 2-parter is underrated. I don't mind the finale, even if the last 10 minutes are just self-indulgent, you know, let's play the sad music to get you sad kind of ending. And I wish it would have just ended with the, you know, the wall, where they're both trying to, like, listen to each other. I wish it would have just ended there. A lot of other episodes are just kind of average, you know, Tooth and Claw. School Reunion, I used to think was, like, really good, maybe because it had Sarah Jane in it, but now it's kind of, it's kind of average as well. So, The Idiot's Lantern, I'm not that into. Fear Hair is terrible. And Love and Monsters is a bit of a guilty pleasure in a so bad it's good way.
Yeah, I mean, with Series 2, I mean, spoilers, that's actually the next one on my list.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of it. I really strongly dislike Rose. I don't like Tennant's Doctor that much, so obviously it's not going to do a lot for me on that front. And as a result, I don't enjoy a lot of the stories, especially some of the more mediocre ones are made infinitely worse by those two. And yeah, because as you said, Rose is portrayed as being right, even when she's just being a horrible bitch, you know? Like, especially... although what kind of, like, hauls it up the rankings for me is Impossible Planet Satan Pit and Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel. Impossible Planet Satan Pit is the perfect example of classic Who done in the modern era. It's excellent. More episodes like that, please.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
And then Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel is kind of like Star Wars Episode 3 for me, in the sense that it's a mixture between genuinely good writing and absolutely laughable moments. Like, they're so bad that you enjoy them. Especially some of the dialogue. And I love that story at bits as a result.
I do have to rewatch that again because...
Well, some of the dialogue is laugh out loud. Like, you know, when John Lumick in the pre-title sequence says, "But how will you do that from beyond the grave?" And then, like, later in the story, you know, when he's been converted into a Cyberman and everything's gone to pot, and he breaks out of his throne and screams, "No!" And it's like, you're an emotionless Cyberman. Why are you screaming no like Darth Vader?
Yeah, I think, like, was it established that he kept his emotions because it kind of feels like he did because he was fine with it?
No. I'm pretty sure that his emotions were removed like every other Cyberman.
Why is he, like, emoting like he's, you know, like he does have emotions, like the 80s Cyberman? Like, John Lumick literally feels like an 80s Cyberman.
Yeah, but he's not David Banks, is he?
No, he's not David Banks, that is fair. But there are some ideas I like in the two-parter, like sort of integrating technology with the earpieces was kind of the next logical step for the Cybermen, just because the fear in the 60s was of technology going too far, and obviously using stuff like, you know, modern technology that we use kind of makes sense into playing into that fear of what the Cybermen represent. It makes sense to kind of use modern elements but still stick to the core of what makes it. I also, one of the darkest scenes, and it's not really noticed, is the one where, and it really makes me sad every time, is, you know, when they're posing as, like, feeding the homeless, but they're just capturing them. That was such a sad scene, because, like, when he says to him, "You try going days without eating," or something like that, and then he just runs for it, and then he realises what it is, and it's, like, a really sad scene.
Yeah, that's such a great scene. And I think that kind of typifies what I was saying about it being a mixture between great writing and hilarious writing. So you have, like, all of this dark stuff about homeless people being kidnapped and turned into Cybermen. And then you've got Mr. Crane going, "Oh, well, we can't hear that. Let's listen to the Lion Sleep tonight," you know?
That was always so distracting. That was honestly the weirdest.
And I love that. That was the reason I love that is because it was really, really edgy. It's like people are getting their bodies hacked to bits, and he's going, "The lion sleeps tonight." I love edgy bollocks like that.
Yeah, it is pretty funny too. I think was it Tom McRae who wrote it?
Yes, it was. And he needs to come back more, because both of his
underrated.
episodes were stellar.
Yeah, I think he's really underrated, honestly. And a lot of people complain about the Cybermen design. I know we've just been going...
Oh, yeah, it's crap.
But I will defend it in the fact that this is a parallel universe. It's just that they still shouldn't keep using it now. No, they're not winning our universe.
I mean, it's not the parallel universe that's the problem. Like, it's the fact that what makes a Cyberman scary is the body horror, and you get a lot less of that with the newer Cybermen. And I think part of the reason is that it's no longer people have, gradually and voluntarily adapted their bodies over time with technology to survive until there's none of their humanity left. That's what's scary about it, the fact that people choose to do that slowly over time just to survive, and then they just end up with all of their humanity gone. That's what was great about them.
Yeah,
and then in this, it's just like people are forced into these chambers where it's done in an instant, and
although
it still
to be fair,
works, but it's not as good.
To be fair, they do you do hear the screaming, and that stuff that comes down to do the upgrade looks pretty creepy, like all the knives and surgery stuff.
Oh yeah, no, it still works, but it's just nowhere near as good in terms of the body horror and the concept. Like, I find the Cybermen much more scary when it's voluntary, because it's people who've done this to themselves. That's when they're really scary. Yeah. And I wish they'd do more episodes that focus on that.
Yeah, but do you think being taken against your will is not a bit more scary than that? I don't know what you think.
I mean, maybe it's just this is my personal point of view, but I find human psychology and the psychology of various different things to be often the more scary and more interesting factor to explore. So somebody coming and take you against your will, doing horrible things to you, is like, yeah, okay, that's scary, but pretty generic. Whereas people voluntarily doing stuff to themselves because of some strong desire to survive, I don't know, to me, that's more scary, because I can really see that happening to lots of people. Because the fact that I can imagine people out of desperation doing that to themselves, I find that much more interesting, much more terrifying.
Have you seen Black Mirror at all?
Yes, I love Black Mirror.
The episode, is it Men Against Fire? Where it's kind of a similar concept of
I don't like that one.
No, but it's kind of a similar concept of the guy originally signs up for it, and although he doesn't exactly know what he's agreeing to, it's kind of a similar concept to that. We're sort of agreeing to stuff we don't truly understand.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, you off topic, you still need to watch Inside Number 9, because it's amazing.
I would definitely will do at some point. You convinced me to watch it, but yeah, I'll watch it with my dinner at some point this week.
I definitely hope so. So yeah, we kind of got caught up about the Cybermen a bit there. Obviously, like you said, Satan Pit, Impossible Planet, I love. Is there anything you really... Well, the worst two easily are Love and Monsters and Fear Her. Even though that's
the difference. The reason why I don't really hate Series 2 as a lot of the Muffat series and Chibnall series I mentioned is the fact that the worst ones are actually fun to watch because they're just so shit.
Yeah.
But in such a hilarious way. But there's a lot of episodes that so actually the ones that I more don't like in my heart of hearts are the ones that are just kind of mediocre in this series because they don't have anything going for them, and I don't like Tennant and Rose, so there you go.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I hardly remember anything about the Idiot's Lantern except the dad was old-fashioned and that was...
Hardcore Tennant fans tell me that that's one episode where they agree with my criticisms of Tennant.
Because I'm not listening!
Yeah.
It was such a cringy, over-the-top line. You'd think the Doctor would understand cultural relevance, but the new Doctors never seem to understand that. Because it seemed like a lot of the older Doctors would often put on a bit of a facade sometimes to fit in, and then maybe reveal the true nature later, but it's like the Doctor expects everyone to have a current attitude, even if they go back 10,000 years. I was like, what do you expect?
Yeah, and it's being so rigorously virtuous, having the Doctor being so rigorously virtuous kind of backfires when cultural norms change. So an example of this is what we were saying earlier about having the Doctor be sexually assaulted by a woman and it's fine. obviously now that wouldn't fly.
Yeah.
And so and that just kind of flies in the face of the Doctor being so rigorously virtuous in all circumstances, because times and norms change, and it's not fun to just watch him be belligerent every week about every little social norm. It was better when we'd just kind of make sure to only lecture people when it was the right time to do so.
Yeah, I think Pertwee kind of did it when what's the story? Is it with the was it Claw of Axos? I can't remember which episode it was, where he says, "Oh, Britain for the British, absolute rubbish, man," or something like that.
But that was outdated. Those were outdated views at the time. I mean, that's always been an outdated view. That's never been something that was you get what I mean.
No, exactly, and
there was always people who were criticising that point of view. It's not like that was a cultural norm.
Hang on,
if you get what I mean.
You keep cutting out. Sorry.
Do I? Oh, that's odd.
No,
I've never had this issue before. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but I don't know. I just felt that slightly different context in that situation. Like, he's being confrontational to a man who's being confrontational to him.
Yeah.
Rather than the Doctor just starting shit at inappropriate moments.
Well, yeah, exactly, because you can see, one thing I like about the 7th Doctor's era is, whenever a character from the past says something that wouldn't be acceptable today, you see Ace, about to go slap him, but then the 7th Doctor's like, no, we'll keep our cover. He's actually smart about it, whereas the Doctor now just punches racists from the 1800s for some reason.
I hate that scene in Thin Ice, and the reason is because, the Doctor wouldn't do that. The Doctor doesn't, use violence to change somebody's mind. That's the point.
Don't you
He only uses violence as a form of self-defense. He wouldn't just punch somebody because, they had a bad view that he didn't agree with. That's just completely missing the point of the Doctor.
I love how he literally says in his regeneration speech, violence is always foolish. I'm like, do you remember this era? He literally did a karate kick on that blue guy, so what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
He just talks a lot of nonsense. So, Series 2, what do you think of the finale, actually? I'm kind of interested in that.
Army of Ghosts is okay. I don't like Doomsday. I find the fight between the Daleks and Cybermen just crap to watch, because the Cybermen, very unrealistically, if you can say that about Doctor Who, don't even manage to take out a single Dalek. I don't really buy that, and as a result, I didn't find that conflict very interesting at all, because it wasn't really a fight so much as a massacre. I didn't enjoy that, and then also obviously the beach scene. Ugh.
I love how
I want to throw up.
I love how because Rose had a dream, they all went to Norway so she could have a 2-minute conversation with the Doctor. Jesus Christ! Imagine
RTD was always in with that kind of weird mystical bollocks. When loads of people in his era just have magic powers, of seeing the future for no reason.
And the Doctor literally causes global warming just to say goodbye. What the hell?
I don't remember that bit, but yeah.
No, he literally says when when he shows the projection of himself, he says, "I'm literally burning up the sun just to say goodbye." And I'm like, "Wow, you're literally gonna destroy the planet? I'm cool."
Well, I mean, I don't think it's the Earth's sun.
Maybe not.
I'm assuming he picked an uninhabited sun. A sun with planets with no life on, rather than just murdering everybody on Earth just to say goodbye.
Would you like Doctor Who to do more multiverse stuff, or do you think it should just stay to time and space?
I think multiverse stuff's great and really interesting.
But it's kind of...
I love Inferno, I love Rise of the Cyber Age of Steel.
Yeah, I think, though, the way the canon's written, it's made it it's very, very rare to end up in another...
Oh, yeah, it's not something that should be brought in very often. But I think there's a lot of interesting opportunities to look at differences if things are done a little differently.
Yeah, Inferno was fantastic.
And I tell you what I'd love, if they spent a series in a different universe, kind of like what they did in the 8th Doctor Charlie era, where they just went to a different universe for a series.
Right.
But kind of just spend some stuff just looking at what's different here, what's changed, and also what kind of weird and wacky things you get in a universe that has different rules. I think that there's a lot of potential there, and I think obviously don't do it all the time, but maybe a whole series in another universe. Doesn't that sound cool? Doesn't that sound cooler than trying to get everybody interested in the series and just, what's in the mystery box this year? Actually do something that hasn't been done before.
Although this would not technically do anything, it would be kind of cool if the Master stole the Doctor's TARDIS, and so the Doctor had to steal the Master's TARDIS just for a series. Just to see. I don't know.
I think a great series would be where the Doctor just lost the TARDIS. And he has to travel on foot and by spaceship and stuff like that. And watching how restricted in it would be great. I mean, obviously you had an Earthbound in the Pertwee era, but I'm talking about maybe in the future with spaceships on different planets, traveling from planet to planet trying to get his TARDIS back.
I think
that'd make a great series.
To be honest, they'll probably say something like, "Oh, it's budget issues," because if the try and go all out with the CGI, it'll probably just look like a Netflix adaptation and not a good one either.
Why would they do CGI?
No, I just mean if you're in the distant future and it's meant to be really advanced, mostly you use.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be. You could go on frontier planets that are just bit run down and shit.
Yeah, I suppose so. It would. I mean,
Doctor Who goes to different places like that all the time. I mean. A lot of the reason why...
No, I mean, though, they'd save a lot of money on budget because there's a lot of times in the series when they will just have it set on Earth, but if you had to have the entire series, in the distant future, there might be sort of budgetary issues.
Well, I'll tell you how you solve that. Multi-part stories, because then you're spending the resources for one episode on 2 episodes, so...
Yeah, that would be better. I would prefer 16 episodes with 8 stories.
I disagree. I just think they should, because they seem to struggle to get Doctor Who out on time, and a lot of it feels rushed. I think they should only do maybe 8 episodes or something, and then them all be 2 parts or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, literally the Sarah Jane Adventures was doing that, and it worked, and they were only half an hour long.
Yeah.
Literally, the Sarah Jane Adventures is more like the classic series than modern Doctor Who. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, I think that's all I have to say on Series 2, then.
Okay, that's fair. My next series... Oh, wait, no, actually, yours was Series 8, and you don't really want to comment on it, do you, again? I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then my next one up, Series 2, and we just discussed that.
Okay, yeah, okay. We've sort of discussed this slightly, but not much, or... Actually, I can't remember if we have. But my 6th pick is Series 10.
Oh, that's the first case where mine's a lot higher up than yours.
But yours is what?
No, mine's Series 2 for this one. But I'm saying that Series 10 is much higher up on my ranking.
Oh, okay. I think a lot of people really like this series a lot more because, for one... Clara wasn't there, and it was just a bit better than the previous 2 series, but I still don't think it's absolutely incredible.
It's not incredible.
I think Bill as a character is good, but the problem with her is that she really doesn't go through any sort of development or character arc. And the prime example of this is World Enough in Time, where she is literally trapped with the Master for 10 years. Doesn't seem to have aged a day and doesn't seem any different personality-wise, having spent, 10 years down there with hardly anything to do, waiting for this guy to come and rescue you, and she hardly seems changed at all. That was my big problem with Bill. Ironically, Nardole has more character development than Bill, which is a bit weird. But, I love Nardole, so I don't care about that.
I don't know, I mean, if the character is fun enough and, enjoyable enough, they don't necessarily need to go through any kind of major character arc.
No, maybe
Sometimes
not.
you can just have an enjoyable character. Not every character has to have the most intricate backstory or development over the course of the year. If they're just an enjoyable
I completely
companion,
agree with what you're saying. But what I mean is, it's the logistics of spending, 10 years down there and literally... not changing one bit just seems very strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's questionable, I suppose.
If you didn't want her to change, he shouldn't have made her go through these life-changing experiences. That was my kind of problem. It's not that you have to have this super complex companion. It's when they're going through these experiences and not really learning or changing from it. There was a few things here and there, but she mainly just remained the same character throughout the entire series.
So I'll tell you what I liked about this series. So obviously Bill's one. She's a likable character.
Yeah,
one of the first likable companions since Donna for me. So that was a big relief. And
Not Rory.
that alone, I mean, he's okay, whatever.
Oh.
And then, so yeah, just having a doctor and companion dynamic that's actually somewhat enjoyable to watch instantly improves the quality of all the episodes. And then also, this series very much focused more on telling stories and also trying to do some different things. Not all of them worked out, but I really appreciated the creativity. So, you got a few standard episodes to start off with. Then you get the Monk trilogy. Yeah, it didn't quite work, but I really appreciate the fact that they went out and experimented, and parts of it were really good. Like Extremis, love it a bit. That was the first month script I thought, holy shit, Moffat is back. I mean, heaven sent now this. That's really, really quality stuff, that. And then obviously Lie of the Land kind of ruined it by being utterly awful. But again, I appreciate the intention of actually going out there and experimenting. And then Oxygen, that was a brilliant story. And again, and that came about because it wasn't focused on doing some kind of massive story arc. It was focused on just telling some good stories, which is what Doctor needs to do more. Be focused on telling the good stories. And and then World Enough and Time is brilliant. I'm not a big fan of the Doctor Falls, but there's worse finales out there. And it very much feels like in Series 10, Moffat's taken on board the criticism of all of his previous work and kind of got back to a decent standard. And so on my list, this is third best. And it's not brilliant, it doesn't blow my mind or anything, but it's a very enjoyable series. And the only episode I take real exception to is Lie of the Land. The rest of it I don't have a problem with.
I'd say the only episode that I think is great is World Enough in Time, because I like Oxygen, but I think in some ways it's a bit heavy-handed and a bit too... I don't know how to explain my exact feelings, because it is a fun episode. I just don't like the fact that he literally has to say capitalism in space as if we didn't already get what the memo was. That's not the only thing wrong with it, and I do still enjoy it a lot. I just don't think it's necessarily up there with something like World Enough in Time, which I really love. The Doctor Falls has good aspects, but really could have done a lot better, and I hate the last 10 minutes with Bill. I despise it. I think, people really rip on Hellbent for bringing Clara back, and that was wrong to do, but, the way they handled Bill here...
Oh, I ripped on that at the time as well.
Yeah, lesbian Puddle comes and saves the day, and now she's not a Cyberman. In my own headcanon, Bill went insane and just imagined all of that happened. And the Doctor...
It's way to just completely underwrite the consequences of being turned into a Cyberman. Again.
And just have this Puddle literally be a god who can do anything.
Oh yeah, it's just atoms. You can do whatever you want with them. Well, that makes you gods!
It never... And it wouldn't have been so bad if Bill had to live her life like Heather, but then Heather literally says, oh no, I can pop you back home if you want. It's like, oh, okay then. That's kind of...
No, I mean, it should have just been, that was just her death, and it was very sad. And then that would have been like, wow, Moffat actually had some balls. He killed off a very likeable character in a really brutal way.
Now, you know what would have been a really dark twist is if we have the Puddle thing where Heather's saving him and it's saving her, and it's all happy. But then it's just revealed that she's going insane.
That would have been cool.
I would have loved that. So
the inner conflict between being a Cyberman has kind of just driven her to levels of insanity. She
starts to imagine weird things that we think Moffat would actually write, but then it's
that'd be like the ending of the film Brazil.
I have not seen that yet, but I will at some point. Also, how does the Doctor survive?
I don't remember. I don't remember that bit.
He is in a giant explosion in the middle of it, and he survives. He has a few marks on his face. Surely he would be burned alive, and he's just not.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like that bit at all.
It was really... And then Bill just, puts a hand kiss on his head, and that makes regeneration energy go off or something. I don't really know. It's a bit weird. But, yeah, I think it's a bit bad to say, but I think if Nardole wasn't in this series, I'd probably put series 2 ahead of it.
I don't like Nardole. So
I love Nardole, and you know that I love Nardole. So that's just how it's gonna be. So what was that? Your number 6?
Yeah, so it was series 2. So
okay, so we've already discussed that. We're getting to the point where we don't have to discuss a lot because we've already overlapped way too much.
Yeah, I mean we've been recording for nearly 2 hours. So maybe that's for the best.
I've literally just noticed. So we'll try and get this wrapped up pretty quickly. Series 6. I don't think we had it. This was my 5th choice.
Yeah.
I don't. Are you surprised that I've ranked it that high?
No, because I know you like Matt Smith.
Yeah, but I've ranked Series 7 like near the bottom. So.
Well, yeah, because that's indefensible. It's like even McCoy fans say season 24 is crap, you know.
Hang on,
most of the time, anyway.
Sorry, you broke up for a second there.
Oh, I said even Sylvester McCoy fans will admit season 24 is crap, for example. Most of them, anyway.
I know some people who really like season 24, and I'm like, why?
Yeah. I mean, the point is, like, even if you're a big fan of a Doctor, if they've got a shit series, they've got a shit series.
I think I just have nostalgia from them trailers, because they're probably, like, some of the best Doctor Who trailers out there.
You had nostalgia for River being naked and all of your wanks to it.
Yeah, exactly. I am too... I don't know, I'm not cynical enough like you. I just fall into the trap too often. So, number 4, I have... I don't think either of us...
I didn't do mine. Next one.
Sorry.
Yeah, Series 3.
Oh, Series 3 at 5th place. Okay. So, go into... like.
So, there's plenty of quality stories in this series. And the only episode I really dislike is Last of the Time Lords. I think the rest of it is generally pretty decent. And then obviously you've got Human Nature, Family of Blood, which is brilliant. And you've got Blink, which is brilliant. And then I really like Utopia as well. The problem is, the reason why it's so low, despite those positives, is I absolutely cannot stand watching Tennant and Martha. And Martha isn't a bad character, but I can't enjoy watching her when the Doctor is being so out of character, being really manipulative and abusive and just being an outright horrible dick to her. And it's so awkward and not fun to watch at all, and I can't stand it. I can't stand that he's just, messing, like, with her mind, just, like, and leading her on like this just for attention. That's a horrible thing to do, and it's not something the Doctor would do. It feels so grossly out of character, and as a result, I just... it just takes me out a lot of the episodes. It just, when I'm watching, it's just like, oh, that's horrible. No, that's not what the Doctor would do. And it's just not fun, not pleasant, really. Not pleasant at all. But they never put up with that. And that's what kind of drags down the series, which, pretty quality in terms of writing for the most part, drags it down to, just being alright for me.
I think Series 3 is a bit weird in the fact that it has a very similar formula to Series 2, but, like, a few different tweaks. At least in terms of the episode numbers. So we have Smith and Jones, which is a bit like the Christmas Invasion, getting transported up to a different place and all these new aliens, and then we have Gridlock, which is literally New Earth, but it's not literally New Earth, but it's taking place in the same place. Then we go back to Shakespearean times, where we went back to... Yeah, it just has a very similar structure to it, and I also just think...
I think most Russell's series actually had a similar structure.
Yeah.
Like think of Series 4, that almost has a similar one as well. Like, starts off with kind of the quirky character introduction, then it has the historical episode,
Yeah, it mostly does kind of go round in cycles like that. There's a lot of things that I just really love from Series 3, like you said, Blink, Family of Blood, Human Nature. I love Freema Agyeman in the role. I think everything in Smith and Jones, she just sells you instantly, because I think there's been a few companion opening stories where you think, I might have to warm to this person. Rose, the Runaway Bride, even... I'm trying to think of other examples as well. Probably the Bells of St. John or something like that. But I think in Smith and Jones, she's just perfectly introduced. She's automatically really likable, and I think she gives a really good performance as well, because she's really not entitled like Rose was. She's actually a very humble person in a lot of ways. Not
but
all
you're
the
forgetting,
time.
Rose would know what to do.
That's true, I forgot. That Rose is perfect in every way. But, I don't know, like, Martha just seems like a person you'd actually want to hang out with. And I just really enjoy that. And I get what you mean, like, the way Tennant is with her sometimes is crappy.
All the time. It's not enjoyable at all. Like, as I said, she's not a bad character, and with any other Doctor should be enjoyable, but...
yeah, and the whole thing just feels like it's another series arc for Rose again, because Series 1, we got to know Rose. Series 2, Rose said goodbye. Series 3, the Doctor remembers Rose, and then Series 4, Rose comes back. And it's like, just... The whole thing of that era is, like, about Rose, and when you don't like the character, it gets a bit distracting.
Yeah, it does, because it treats Rose as if she's, like, the best person ever, but it's like, she's really nasty a lot of the time. I don't see what she's done to earn kind of this state, like, this kind of, thing of being a great person, because what's she done that's that great? But especially when compared to every other companion, it's like, she's done no more than others.
Well, did you hear one of Russell T Davies' original ideas for Boomtown?
No.
Okay, I'm not lying when I say this. One of his ideas, which was cut in the end, was that the TARDIS turns I can't remember the Slovenian's name, but turns it into an egg. Apparently, they were gonna do something like the time vortex created Rose to be the perfect companion.
Wow, if Russell T Davies had done that, that would have been fucking awful.
Oh my god! Like,
that sounds like a Moffat thing.
No, but literally, that was something that he was considering. Like, that the time vortex would perfectly make Rose into, like, the perfect companion. I'm like, what? Oh my god! It was. I'm just really glad that obviously never happened. Obviously, he saw sense in the end.
Yeah, I'm very glad, but that's the kind of thing where Moffat wouldn't see sense and definitely would have went ahead with it. It's like, how is she the perfect companion? She's horrible.
Like I said, I don't mind it in isolation in Series 1 as a character flaw, but then you either need to have her change as a character or have her be condemned for her actions, which none of that happens.
And I think the thing that makes it the worst is the fact that she is just worshipped as this great person when she's done nothing to earn that.
The reason a lot of people write Rose is because Russell T Davies says you should like Rose.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like written in a way that's naturally likable. It's just like this character now.
Yeah, I think like today, Chris Chibnall would get a lot of flack for that because it's kind of the thing he does. But I guess at the time it was fine because like I can understand why people enjoy watching Rose because Billie Piper does give a good performance, and even though I don't like the way she's written with Tennant, she clearly does have a lot of natural chemistry with him. So I can understand why people do like her a bit more, like, or unlike Chibnall's characters who literally don't have character. Like, they can't really be they can't be horrible characters because they don't really have a character. Like
I feel like that Graham and Ryan in Series 11 did actually get some, but obviously in Series 12 they've just became characterless, like they've lost all the character they had.
Hey, I lost me now. Yeah, that's what I did. That's just, it's pretty much all he says, isn't it? Series 3, trying to think what else there really is to say about it. Why does he revisit New Earth again and the cat people? I kind of know he has to put the face of Bo reveal in there, but no one liked the cat people.
Well, he just wanted to have some furry action going on there.
Yeah, and
with that woman screwing the cat, and literally out of her vagina was birthed just cats.
Imagine, like they're not even half cats; they're literally just kittens. It's kind of weird. Like, oh my, I don't know. It's billions and billions of years in the future, but they also just bring the Makra in for no reason.
Yeah, that's weird, especially given like. In the Macro Terror, they're manipulating, like, a whole society of people. In this, we're just crabs, we like gassy, you know?
I mean, that's pretty much what they've done with every New Who villain, so I'm not surprised. The biggest shame about Series 3 is that we got about 5 minutes of Derek Jacobi as the Master.
I'm very glad Big Finish picked up the torch with him. And while his sets have kind of gone down in quality as it went along, and it's now kind of just became a bit fan-wanky by the end. But the first two sets with Derek Jacobi as the Master were beautiful.
I've only listened to Only the Good.
My favourite set is the Master of Callus. I mean, nothing will ever beat the Skyman. That is a piece of art there.
Yeah, that was messed up, honestly.
Yeah, you can see my taste lie in what is edgy. But then Master of Callus is also brilliant, and I'd highly recommend that.
If I ever become Doctor Who showrunner, I'm just going to make it really edgy. It's going to be cool.
Well, not too edgy though. It's like don't do edge for the sake of edge. Just have it do it on the occasion. It's best when it's done only on occasion and with a really good idea that makes it cool. We're
going to bring Companion Assault back.
I think a good example of that actually is the Haunting of Villa Diodati. I saw some people complaining that the Lone Sideman's dialogue was like ridiculously edgy and it was just stupid. Whereas I really liked it because we hadn't had really much edgy stuff, and then he was like a really interesting concept that was saying some really messed up dark. So I was like, yeah, this is great.
Exactly. No, you don't understand. It's a children's show, so we should have been defeated by the power of love.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about Power of Love. Yeah.
So, yes, Maxine Alderton, you are fired because you didn't do what Gareth Roberts did. How dare you? Have you got anything else to say about... Well, Series 3, I know you're not a massive John Sim fan, so...
Well, no, let me give an opinion on this, because I don't like John Sim in The End of Time at all, as a character or as the Master. Right. But at the end of Series 3, while I don't like him as a Master, as I feel that he's extremely out of character, I think as a character, like just if he wasn't the Master, extremely entertaining and a really good... If it wasn't the Master, I'd love the character. I just can't buy that it's the Master, but other than that, great character in Last of the Time Lords. Not Last of the Time, Sound of Drums, that's the one.
I think it's a bit more difficult to completely change the Master's personality the same way they do with the Doctor, just because we've been with the Doctor and can generally see the experiences they've gone through. That would make them this person, but when the Master suddenly changes personality, which makes sense, like Geoffrey Beaver's Master and Alex McQueen's Master, we see how they conflict with each other and are a little bit different from each other, but hold the same core elements there. And
exactly.
But I don't know, like, because you could compare a lot of Doctors to, say, William Hartnell and say he's not like him, so he's not the Doctor. But
there's no difference that's so pronounced as that change.
I'm gonna have you just cut out there.
I couldn't hear anything there.
Right, I thought you just cut out.
Okay. No, well, what I said is that there's like the difference between John Sim and the classic Who Masters. There's never been a Doctor regenerate. Like, there's never been two Doctors you compare and say they're that different, because it is just basically a different character.
Yeah.
My personal opinion.
Okay, but what about Matt Smith and William Hartnell?
Well, if you look... I mean... How do I describe it? I mean, because as like you were saying, it was still the same core elements there, like the differences between Alex McQueen's Master and Geoffrey Beaver's Master. It's the same core kind of thing there, rather than just like a wholesale change. Because like with the first Doctor and Matt Smith, they're still the Doctor at the end of the day. They're still, striving for the same things, using like similar methods as each other to solve problems, and thinking in a similar way. Whereas this Master just thinks nothing like the other Masters, acts nothing like the other Masters, and just it's an incomprehensible change to me. I don't like it. I mean, that's just a personal thing, and as I said, as just a character that isn't the Master, great character,
Yeah, but John Sim does give a really fun performance.
Yeah. Although at the end of time, he's just shit. Either way you flip it.
I think, like, end of time, he's kind of so bad he's good in some ways, because I just think he's hilariously over the top. Like, dinner time! and just stuff.
Yeah, but it's the fact that that's meant to be serious and that's meant to be scary.
That's what makes it funnier to me. Like the fact that they think it's so good and it's just not.
Is that they're taking the piss of this great character I love?
I don't understand, like, you know when people talk about changing the Doctor's history, people didn't give Russell enough crap for it when he changed the Masters a little bit, so it's not like...
Oh, that's crap.
So basically, the Master isn't just this scheming manipulator because of, you know, reasons we don't know. No, he's just insane because when he looked into the time vortex, Rassilon put a drumming noise in his head. That's it. And it's like...
That's crap. That's removing so agency from the Master, you know, for his own actions. Like saying, oh, but it's just because he had this accident, is it? You know, when he looked in the time vortex, it kind of removes that quality of, like, a villainous character where, you know, as I said, it robs him of agency. And I much prefer the explanation in the audiobook Master with Sylvester McCoy and Jeffrey Beavers as the Master, where the reason that he's such a bastard is because he accidentally killed somebody, like when he was a child, and that kind of, you know, that kind of guilt, you know, really affected him and influenced his development while growing up, and that's kind of what made him into a nasty arsehole. I mean, it's still maybe, you know, bit of a simple explanation, but I do prefer it.
Okay, so my fourth place is Series 4.
Series 5 for me.
Okay, that's interesting. So, Series 4 is a lot of people's favourites, which I can understand because it has a lot of, you know, fan wank in it, and Donna's really good. I think Tennant is probably at his best simply because Rose isn't there to, like, feed into that egotism. He's not treating Martha like crap, and Donna is a good, like, counter to Ten's arrogance. So I think it's...
David Tennant's Doctor is so much more enjoyable in Series 4.
Yeah, and I think it's, like, there's a lot of things going for it. I do think some things about it are a little bit overrated, especially the finale. I think Stolen Earth...
Oh yeah, I hate the finale.
Stolen Earth is handled really well. Like, it sets up everything really well. It gives the characters, you know, purpose. And I actually like the way it resolves Harriet Jones' story as well, because I think she was done quite dirty in the Christmas Invasion when she actually kind of had a good point. But they go for this, oh no, the Doctor's right, because violence is never acceptable. But, you know, they don't really offer, like, a nuanced take on it. But this kind of redeems Harriet Jones as, like, even if she's done something you disagree with, it doesn't mean she's a bad person, which I don't think New Who has enough of, really. But then Journey's End, obviously Stolen Earth has all this great setup, in my opinion, but then Journey's End doesn't know what to do with its characters. So we have Martha, who's got the Osterhagen key, which once again leads to absolutely nothing because she gets teleported onto the Crucible. Then we have Sarah Jane, who has a warp star. Once again, doesn't matter because it never gets used. Captain Jack is there to kill the Dalek, I guess. But they're just all there, and they don't really serve a purpose because they're all in one location, and you can't really write it so all those characters are doing something proactive. Like, did we really need Jackie there? Couldn't she have just been a cameo at the end or something? Because there's just...
No, but we need fan wank of everything from this era.
The thing is, though, there's so little going on in the plot once we hit Journey's End, because, like, Stolen Earth, there's a lot of mystery going on when we find out it's the Daleks, we're finding out what the plans are, but then the Journey's End, and people complain that the Timeless Children is an exposition dump. This is actually more of an exposition dump than Timeless Child is, because at least in Timeless Children, the companions are fighting the Cybermen, but they're not even doing that in this episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I'll say is that even though Series 4 is higher on my list, we probably like it the same amount. It's just that you like New Who more than me. But yeah, I really don't like the finale. I dislike Journey's End. It's just fan-like. It's not very interesting at all.
I think it gets...
I mean, reasons why I like this series, because this, for me, is my second favourite New Who series. And the reason I really like it is because, as you say, the dynamic between the 10th Doctor and Donna is much better. It makes it much more enjoyable to watch. And then the quality of writing from Series 3 is back again in Series 4, and there's lots of really good episodes. You got Silence of the Library, Forest of the Dead, which maybe I don't like as much as everybody else, but it's still a really good episode. Midnight, which is by far one of New Who's best, and it's really nice, like, because one thing I hate about New Who is how it's always like, oh, humans are so great, you know, and this one showing the much darker side of humans, because we are a horrible species. And I really like fiction that kind of delves into that nasty psychology and, you know, being really confrontational with us about, like, the kind of things we do under pressure. And I really appreciate that episode for that. And then obviously Turn Left. As I said before, alternative realities, they're my thing. I dig them. And that was a really good take on it. I mean, yeah, sure, it does kind of do the thing that I don't like of, this companion is the most important person ever. But, you know, whatever. I'm willing to ignore my principles if the episode's enjoyable. And it was.
I think the emotional payoff is good in Journey's End, like with Donna losing her memory, and that's the only reason I don't necessarily mind the Deus Ex Machina, because for me, a Deus Ex Machina is when something happens to solve the situation and has no consequences or robs someone of a decision.
Well, that's not what Deus Ex Machina means. Deus Ex Machina is just like a solution just coming from nowhere.
Yeah, like, I know, but what I'm saying is I don't mind it as much when there is actually consequence to it. So, Donna doing the Dr. Donna, okay, you can think it's kind of stupid or whatever, but at least it has a consequence where she has to lose her memory, you know, and she has to leave the Doctor. And it's the same with the Partner of the Ways where Rose shows up in the TARDIS. If she'd have shown up before the Doctor had made his decision, then it would have been terrible. But the fact that he'd made his decision, he wasn't going to do it, and he's ready to die, and then she saves him, and also the fact that with him taking in the time vortex, he had to regenerate, so there was consequences there as well. Like I said,
I mean, consequences make it not as bad, but for me, it's still a sin, because it's a fundamentally uncreative way of ending a plot that we've been invested in for a while. It's like, it's not interesting. It's just a cheap trick to end the episode, because they built the stakes too high for their own good.
Well, yeah, that's what Russell loved doing. He loved like making the first part about raising the stakes as high as you could go, and then he couldn't really figure out a solution for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it actually made the character. I mean, because still, even though there were consequences, it didn't make the characters face the actual consequences of the situation. So, like in Bad Wolf Parting the Ways, the Doctor never had to face the actual consequences of, what happens with the Daleks invasion and all that. Because I love that story, but that is my one criticism, that he doesn't. I want to see he should face the consequences for his decision there, rather than just have it be magically resolved by a Deus Ex Machina. And it's the same with this. There's some high stakes going on, and they just resolve it with a flick of the fingers, rather than actually facing up to what's been created and established.
It's kind of weird that the most realistic solution in a finale in the Davies era was the Cybermen and the Daleks flying into another universe.
Yeah, now that wasn't a Deus Ex Machina. It's
established.
Very much, something that had very much been established. I mean, I suppose you could argue that the whole time vortex thing had been established, but still, the difference is this was harder science. I mean, obviously, it's probably not really scientifically accurate, but it feels like it's a little sciencey, whereas in this case, it's just like, look in time vortex, get God power.
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense, but I don't know. I kind of just figured because I love that story so much. I'm biased. I don't even care.
Oh, look, I love the story in pieces, but I'm not going to forgive something like that. I mean, because it hinders my enjoyment of the story, and that's what makes me really upset about it, because it's a really poor ending to what was absolutely brilliant. But we'll get on to Series 1 in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah, I suppose so. So we've just talked about Series 4. Did you have a pick?
Yeah, Series 5 was mine.
Okay, so why don't we go into that?
Well, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say. It's a decent series. Not a bad start for the Moffat era, which did veer away in quality quite a lot. But yeah, it was a decent start. Maybe I'm not the biggest fan of the story arc or the finale. I mean, it's not terrible by any means, but it's not really my thing. And I had some good episodes in this series. I liked Time of the Angels, Flesh and Stone. I liked Amy's Choice, and what was the other one I liked? Vincent and the Doctor. They were all good stories that stood out, and they're ones I come back to every so often. So, and there's not really an episode I strongly dislike. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Lodger at all, but there's nothing that was really awful about this series, and there was a few good episodes here and there. So yeah, not bad.
I'll probably get more into Series 5 as we go on, because we're getting close
sure.
to that. But well, that's I respect that opinion, and I'm glad you've put it as high as you did. This might surprise you, actually, because remember, I'm not talking about being objective. This is just my own silly feelings. In third place, we have Series 1.
Oh, no. Oh, that's a poor opinion.
I put it in third place. Be happy. Okay, I was happy that you put Series 5 in fourth place, so just accept it.
I love Series 1.
So do I. I love Series 1 as well.
But it's the only New Who series I can point to and say, right, that is excellent stuff.
I would say objectively it probably is the best New Who series, but, you know, I'm just biased.
Yeah.
Like, I have to think of...
Well, do you want to discuss that when we get to me having it at number 1 then, like you're doing with Series 5?
We can definitely do that.
Because, I mean, I'm assuming Series 5 is your number 1.
It might be.
It definitely is.
What was your third pick?
Series 10, so we've already discussed that.
Okay. My second choice, we're actually getting quite close because we've overlapped a lot. Yeah. My second choice is Series 3, which once again we've gone into.
And mine is Series 4, we went into that.
Okay, and my number 1, is Series 5.
Well, yeah, you do your love rant for Series 5, and I'll do my love rant for Series 1.
I watched your live stream of the 20 worst Doctor Who episodes. I haven't watched all of it yet, but I got to the point where you said the 11th hour wasn't that good, and I was incredibly triggered.
Yeah, it's not. It's not terrible, but it barely has a plot.
But I think it's like a perfect introduction to Matt Smith's Doctor, and it's really fast paced. It gets you really into it. It's not necessarily the greatest written script ever. It's just it's just fun to me. Okay, I'm not gonna try and analyze how brilliant it is. It's just really fun, and I just really enjoy it. Even The Beast Below, I don't think is that bad. Honestly, it's just kind of. But like a lot of people go on about like it's terrible. I think if it was in a Chris Chibnall series, it'd probably be one of my favourite ones. Well, that's not saying much. No, I'm not lying. Honestly, Victory of the Daleks is kind of bad.
That one's shit. I've forgotten about that one when I was mentioning it. Okay, there is one shit episode in Series 5, Victory of the Daleks.
I like the first half of the episode where we first meet Churchill and there's a lot of mystery surrounding the Daleks. I just think as soon as the Daleks reveal themselves, that's when it goes downhill.
I saw some people taking the piss about the Doctor's friendship with Winston Churchill because obviously he did some questionable things.
Yeah.
In sentiment. I bet there was a great meme image I saw where the Doctor says, "Hello, Winston, me old buddy." And then it's got Winston Churchill saying, "The Indians are beastly people with a beastly religion," and it's like, oh, classic Winston.
I can kind of forgive it with Winston Churchill because he is this iconic British figure. It's kind of like you look at another country's iconic figure who is probably controversial and they had a time traveling show where the hero met them. I could kind of understand, even if it is a bit controversial. Like, I can't think of another example properly, but I don't know, let's say there was an American hero who met Harry Truman, despite the fact that he put Japanese people in internment camps. You'd still understand why they glossed over that, because it's kind of the context of it. But I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying I kind of get it.
I mean, I don't really care, but I just found that image funny, and I just felt the need to mention it.
Wait, does that image actually exist? Because you need to send you need to send that to me.
I'll see if I've still got it on my phone.
That's... I haven't heard anything of his Big Finish stuff. I need to do that at some point.
I will not be doing that.
Fair enough.
Who asked for a Churchill spin-off series? Seriously,
it might be good. I don't know. I've not actually tried it, so who knows. This is an unpopular opinion of mine. I think the Angel 2-parter is better than Blink.
I disagree, but I do think it's a decent story.
That's fine. That's fine.
I mean, it's a good story until it gets too absorbed in the story arc, and that's what kind of brings it down a bit for me.
I think it maybe towards the second half of the second episode.
Yeah.
But I still feel it functions very well, and it's still got a very clear focus to it. It doesn't, like, completely get sidetracked. The Angels are still involved. They're still a threat. There's a few things, like adding the extra ability that the image of an angel becomes an angel. That doesn't really...
Oh, no, I thought that was a bit silly.
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense, because Sally Sparrow literally had pictures of angels in that folder. Like, I wondered if that's the reason the Doctor got sent back in the first place, because the picture of the angel come out as something, I don't even know.
The intention there was to, like, make the viewers think, "Ooh, the angel's gonna come out of the telly when you're watching." But it's just that it doesn't make any sense. Like, how an image can become a physical manifestation. I thought that was just silly.
Well, to be fair, we are talking about creatures that literally turn to stone when you look at them.
Yeah, I can buy that more than, creatures that not only can turn to stone, but also any image of them will come out of the image as a physical manifestation and have the same properties that the original creature had. Is a bridge too far?
What if, like, there must be... If the Weeping Angels were real, there must be, like, hundreds of photos where they're just in the background and you can't even see them, and they can just come to life now, apparently. Because it's not even like it's just a moving image. He literally says, "Why are there no pictures?" So literally any image, like picture of an angel can... I don't know how it works, but yeah, apparently that's just how it is. What was the... Yeah.
Got anything more to gush about?
I haven't gushed that much. I've actually been somewhat critical of the fact that it's my favourite series. The next one, Vampires in Venice, was a bit I am probably someone who... I'm surprised I'm doing this, but I'm actually giving a bit of praise to Chris Chibnall, because I do like his 2-parter in the series. Even though it's not perfect,
but done far worse.
Yeah, it's not perfect, and I understand those reasons. I didn't, like I said before, I didn't grow up in the classics, so I don't feel as passionately about it. But I don't know. I just enjoy a lot of the characters in the story, and
it's not a bad episode. Yeah. I just can't forgive an episode that literally copy and pastes the plot of another episode, but does it worse.
I guess.
So, and I criticise the Sea Devils for this as well, because everybody loves the Sea Devils, but all I see is like the Silurians again, but underwater and worse.
It's probably just because the Master's in it, and that's it.
I mean, the Master scenes are enjoyable, but it's just like you could have had a good Master. You could have had like the Master doing something different rather than just rehashing old territory.
Yeah, I mean, Russell and Chibnall kind of did the same thing with the Arachnos and whatever that new thing was in Nikola Tesla's episode.
Yeah, they look the same.
Yeah, they literally... I thought it was just the same villain. It was like they got a different name. I'm like, what's the point? Like, did she even have the lisp as well?
I don't know.
I thought she did. I wasn't too sure. And then obviously, you know that Vincent and the Doctor is fantastic.
Ooh, that's some good shit.
And I really like the finale. So that's really all that I have to say about it. I really enjoy it. I've got nostalgia over it, and I just think it's a really good jumping on point as well. I think Series 10 tried to do a similar thing, but I don't think it does it as well as Series 5 does.
Alright, so the Series 1, it's excellent stuff. I mean, I don't like Rose, of course, but Chris Eccleston, what a Doctor, man. He is, just an amazing actor, probably one of the best actors to play the Doctor. And I really like what Russell James was going for with his character in terms of giving a Doctor who's really going through some shit and kind of showing that happen. Obviously, he did the same with Tennant, but there it didn't work because I found Tennant very dislikable, especially in the way that he treated other people, and the way he was kind of arrogant in the wrong kind of way, whereas Chris Eccleston was arrogant in the right kind of way. If you get what I mean. It's difficult to describe. And it's just so enjoyable to watch. I especially love when he's admonishing people. He's very, very funny when he does that. And it's I love everything about Eccleston's Doctor. Well, not everything, but I love a lot about Eccleston's Doctor, and he's by far and away a million years my favourite New Who Doctor. So obviously, considering I don't really like any of the other New Who Doctors, and I like Eccleston, this series already has a monumental advantage over every other series.
Yeah, that does make sense.
But then you've also got the fact that the story quality is extremely high. I mean, there's a couple of kind of dull ones here and there.
I think,
but what is good is like properly on level with like some of my favourite classic Who stories. Empty Child, Dr. Dances, Dalek, and Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways, all absolute classics that I love to bits. I think only Heaven Sent and Midnight are the only two stories in New Who that I feel are on the level of these three. So that just kind of goes to show how much more I like Series 1 than the rest of it. And I feel that part of why it's so good is, like, I feel they got a bit too big for their boots after the success of Series 1.
Maybe.
Whereas in this series it was very humble, it was done extremely well.
Yeah, and I love how Eccleston is so good at switching emotions instantly, which he had to do quite a bit, because obviously he had this kind of mask on of, he's trying to move on, he's a bit quirky, but obviously we've seen the sort of PTSD, Time Lord side of him, and he was just really good at, like, I love the scene in Bad Wolf, when he's saying, oh, she's going to make millions on the outside, and he just thinks and then when he sees her, like, evaporated, and just his face, how it switches is just fantastic, and he just has a lot of them moments where he can just switch to comedic to very dramatic in, like, a second, and I think someone, like, I don't mean to rip on Jodie Whittaker, because I do think she's a good actress, but I think sometimes, at least in Doctor Who, she kind of struggles to find that balance between being light-hearted and serious. It feels... I don't know, it sometimes can feel a bit jarring when it switches with her, but with Eccleston it just feels so genuine when he has those moments, whereas, like, whenever Tennant has them, it kind of feels like he's just being angry for the sake of it, and not really showing any other emotion than that.
As a bit of an aside, do you think maybe Jodie Whittaker has been a bit miscast as the Doctor? Because I thought she wasn't a bad choice at first after looking at a few clips when she was announced, but I don't know, it just doesn't seem to have materialised with the performances, and obviously the writing really doesn't help. But even somebody like Matt Smith or Peter Capaldi, where I really don't like the writing at all, I still don't think they were miscast, because I think they were choices to be the Doctor that I think, with the writing there, really could work, and their acting was still top notch. And while I'm not saying Jodie Whittaker is a bad actress or anything, I don't know if she really suits the role of the Doctor in that sense. Like Jo Martin, when Jo Martin came on, I was like, okay, that's the Doctor. I enjoyed her performance so much more, and bought into her being the Doctor immediately, whereas I still haven't really bought into it 2 seasons into Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah, that's really weird, and I think that just kind of proved... Because I know a lot of people would disagree with this, but a lot of people probably didn't want to say that Jodie Whittaker was miscast because of the obvious connotations with that.
Yeah, but I think now that we've got Jo Martin there showing that a woman Doctor really can work, I think that shows that Jodie Whittaker definitely was miscast. It's not just, us having some kind of weird, like, psychological woman thing.
Well, I think she's just trying to play what she thinks modern fans want, rather than let's give us a really compelling character. Because think about Christopher Eccleston for a second. If you described his character before it was made to a classic Doctor Who fan, they'd probably just say it sounds terrible. Like, what, he wears a leather jacket and he's all serious, and, in concept it doesn't sound great, but the way it's executed is brilliant, and it just doesn't feel like her or Chris want to take any risks with the character. They just want to think, okay, well, David Tennant worked, Matt Smith worked, and we'll have maybe a few Eccleston moments. It's not trying to create a new vision.
Absolutely.
Because even if I know you don't like David Tennant's Doctor that much, but at least Russell T Davies had a vision for him. Even if you don't like that vision was still there, and I don't feel it there with Chris at all. I think he's just like, well, what worked before, and the thing about Chris, he's the most moderate extremist ever. So he will look at
radical centrist.
Yes, no, exactly. And what I mean by that is he will look at criticism. Well, I'm just guessing this, by the way. I don't spy on Chris Chibnall, by the way. But
in your cupboard, Chris.
Yes, I am actually. I convinced him to make the Battle of Ransker of Kolos. I am evil for doing that. But he kind of looks at criticism. So, say the Moffat era, a lot of people complain that the story arcs were too complicated, and that a lot of the plots were convoluted. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're not going to have any story arc, which is fine, and we're also going to have the characters literally explain everything. Because, and it's like, no, Chris, find the balance. Don't just find stuff that people didn't like and then do the complete opposite of that, because that's not going to work.
I think what's wrong with how he writes is, it's like you say, he looks at what works in the past and then just like, right, just paint by numbers, go by that. Like, this is an element Doctor Who has that work, this is an element Doctor Who has that work, and just kind of putting it in without any thought as to, you know, how does this enhance the story? Is this actually going to progress this version of the show anywhere? It's just like, right, this worked in the past, this worked in the past, just jumble it together, there we go, that's a show. And it's kind of, you know, and that's probably why a lot of it's not terrible, because, you know, he's not taking any risks, he's not doing anything ridiculous, aside from maybe the time as children. But then, obviously, that means that there's not many episodes that are that great either, because it's just completely paint by numbers. It's like it's thinking of, right, how is an average, decent Doctor Who episode constructed, rather than, right, what interesting story do I want to tell? I mean, obviously I don't know this, but that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, it felt like sometimes Russell might write them, but whenever he did, he'd still add fun and weird elements to it that would make it somewhat enjoyable. Like, Voyage of the Damned is stupid, but it is enjoyably stupid at the same time, whereas when Chris writes one of those scripts, he just takes, like, the fun aspects out of them and just makes it really generic.
Yeah. Although I'm not going to defend Voyage of the Damned.
No, I'm not saying it's good, but it in my opinion, it is so bad that it's enjoyable at times. And
it is meme quality.
Yeah, and Russell T Davies had a bit of that, because, let's be honest, Doctor Who sometimes should be a bit silly, because it always has been. Not all the time, and not to a certain extent, but sometimes it should just be a bit stupid, because that's what it is. That's fine.
Yeah.
But Chris just doesn't seem to be able to grasp that, and he's just like, because almost every one of his scripts works technically, but it just doesn't translate to anything meaningful.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's very much, he's thinking of the scripts from a very workmanlike perspective. It's not about what creative thing can I do. It's about how can I make this work as a show that that gets people watching and isn't horrific.
Well, he's tried, but I don't know how successful he's been at that. But
I don't know. Well, I'd say that there's a lot more people watching the Chibnall era than there were watching the Moffat era by the end.
Yeah, that's probably true.
It's definitely true. I mean, you hear so much more about Doctor Who now these days from just the general public than you did in the Capaldi era, and the viewing figures went up despite the fact that less people are watching TV.
I thought the viewing figures had done bad, the series. I need to look at them more.
I think that's kind of a false narrative, really, because
maybe I've not, because
people are comparing it to like series back when people still really watched TV, and while the viewing figures are not like ridiculously high, they're much higher than Series 9 and Series 10, I believe.
Yeah, obviously.
At least if you include I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was, and. Yeah, I don't think the viewing figures are as much of a problem these days, because, it's all about digital streaming and, selling DVDs and selling merchandise and things like that.
Yeah, that's very true. I'd say my favourite Chris Chibnall script, and it actually feels like something he made because he wanted to make it, is Adrift.
I haven't seen that.
Haven't you? Have you not seen Torchwood?
I've seen Children of Earth, Miracle Day, like back when they aired, and I haven't seen anything else.
Okay, series 1 and 2 are quite memeable, I'm not gonna lie, because Chris is basically the showrunner. But Adrift is an episode he wrote in series 2 of Torchwood, and it's actually a brilliant episode. Like, it's the only Chris Chibnall work that I love.
I might go back and watch them then, because they're on iPlayer. I've always wondered what the first two series were like.
Well, some of them are terrible. Like, have you not watched Cyberwoman?
I mean, it looks shit from the promotional photos.
It is hilarious, honestly. And then I don't know if you've also seen the Sex Alien.
I've heard about it. Oh. It's very much seems like the kind of thing Chris Chibnall from like from the same point of view where it's like workman, like it's like, right, how do I be edgy and adult? I know, sex alien.
Okay, if you haven't, the Torchwood finale is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, a lot of the build up in the episode is fine, but then the final reveal, who is like the big villain, is hilarious. It's like just the funniest thing ever, because Chris could not think of anything else.
No, maybe I'll give it a go.
You do need to at some point. Like, series 2 I actually do like, and I think he improves a lot on the characters, because he kind of didn't know what he was doing in series 1. I think it also helped that Russell created the characters. I think he did anyway. And
yeah, that's true.
And then Chris had to work with those characters, so it made them a little bit better. But then he just adds like pointless subplots of people having affairs with each other, and it's like, it's really not necessary.
That as I said, it's like Chris Chibnall workman like paint by numbers. Is like, what is edgy and adult? I know, sex aliens and people having sex. Lots of sex, just as much sex as you can put in, and that way it is edgy and adult.
It's so edgy, mate. And then we're gonna have Gwen make out with this lesbian alien or something. I don't even know. It's getting crazy at this point. So I think we went a bit off topic there, but we've pretty much discussed everything, unless there's anything else you want to add about series 1.
No. So yeah. I mean, if you're a new Who fan watching this, you probably hate me for all of my heresy, but it's just my opinion. I'm not that into New Who, I'll be perfectly honest, but I'm going to keep on watching it, because every so often there is that absolute classic that is just like, well, I'm not going to miss out on that. I mean, I'll crawl through a bed of nails if it means that I get to another excellent piece of Doctor Who. That's how in love I am with this show, you know? Yeah. So even if the modern iteration isn't my thing, I'm still going to try and soldier on so I can get to stuff that I enjoy that's new.
We're just praying at this point, honestly. Well, yeah, check out Lord Slarr's channel down in the description below. Watch all the New Who hate and classic love and all that kind of stuff on his channel, and hopefully we'll have more coming from us in the future, and I really appreciate you dropping by. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, I had fun, thanks.